Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's gavel.
Good evening, everyone.
Let's call this meeting to order, please. It's 6:00. We will not need to see any alternates tonight. We have a full house. And we will take now public comment.
Mr. Chairman,
Up, Tom?
yeah, I'd like to move to limit the initial public comments to 15 minutes or less. Second.
All in favor?
No, the first one. First one.
But total, we can't,
Everyone-
not everybody can't have 15 minutes.
No. The length of time for public comment in the first section, 15 minutes.
15 minutes total. All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm sorry.
Let's proceed with our first public comment. Anyone?
Right behind you, Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Gail Allen on you.
Oh, hi, Gail.
I just wanted to, I know that you're working hard to drop things, but I actually don't support them. I want to see our town have services. I think things like the library and the daycare and the rec center and the children's theater and just all these great groups need town support. I also think our road crew needs, take care of trees, this and that. There's a lot to be done. We keep pinching pennies on it and we're just gonna get not good. And that's not gonna have a long-term good future. So I think we need to invest in quality of life. And I'll pass it on to someone else.
Thank you, Gail.
Hi, Donna Hines from Pointer Rock. And I totally agree with Gail. I think that all of the activities, I'm hoping the Board of Finance take a second look and not cut funds for those things. Especially for the library, the children's theater, the daycare.
Thank you.
And if I may, speaking for the Board of Selectmen, the preparation of the fiscal year 24-25 proposed municipal spending plan has been a very deliberative process. The Board of Selectmen, while preparing both the plans presented on March 28th and April 16th, took into account the impact the plan would have on the taxpayers and the community as a whole. The balance is between the town delivering the usual and customary services expected and deserved by the taxpayers and the residents of this town. And it's the cost of delivering those services. If we as a town fail to deliver those services, if we really do, we diminish the value of our community. I just want you to remember this as you go through this, and I'm speaking as a citizen here, and as a taxpayer, and as a member of this community. A budget is not just a collection of numbers, but it's an expression of our values and our aspirations. Thank you.
And I appreciate that. Yes.
Hi. My name is Barbara Deinhardt. I'm a resident of Falls Village. I am writing to urge your favorable consideration of the funding request submitted by the library for this fiscal year. No one can doubt how essential the library is to our town. Can you imagine Falls Village without the library? The library has done truly remarkable things with the small budget it has, but it could do so much more in terms of its collection, programming, outreach to those in the community unable to get to the library, and maintenance of our beloved but aging village. Most importantly, we could pay our extraordinary staff closer to what they deserve and closer to what library staff in neighboring towns earn. Given the size of our town, it is difficult to fund these extended goals through private donations. We really need more help from the town. Thank you.
Yes.
So Peter Jensen on BB Hill, and I'm going to actually take an opposite position here of consulting so far. I can appreciate what the town, the select board and the board of finance is doing to, cut down to the bone. But then, south is south. And now we're at the bone, and so what you're suggesting is maybe the taxpayer have to start cutting into the bone too. And these are not the best of times. And I don't know if the taxpayer is really, generally carry the burden over and over and over again. with higher taxes. And I looked back on services a couple years ago. They were very nice services then. Now they're more. Now you're asking for more money for these services, and I do understand that costs have gone up. But level setting budget in the most difficult of economic times, I think is really a way to, let's say, appreciate the taxpayer and not abuse them. I don't want to be abused.
Appreciate that. Any other comments? Roxanne?
Hi, Roxanne Whitaker, from 12 Thunder Mountain Road. I'm once again appealing to the Board of Finance to maintain the increase afforded us by the Board of Selectmen in their preparation of the town spending plan. As we told you before, the library budget, the annual budget for the library is only $169,000. By the time we operate and maintain our 1880s building and pay our staff, some of whom earn barely over minimum wage, to deliver services to this community, we only have $28,000 a year left for everything else. Books, programs, after school activities, you name it, outreach to seniors, home delivery of books, all of those things come out of a budget that's ridiculously thin compared to other libraries in our director earns substantially less than the median for her peer town and for towns of our same size across the state, and certainly less than those librarians statewide, with no less responsibility than any executive director of any library in Connecticut. Every penny of the $15,000 increase that's in this budget will be invested in this community. It's not as if we are using it for outside programs or outside vendors to put programs on for us. We in this community and we're invested in this community. We get less than half from our town of our budget than North Canaan spends on their library. Have you driven by the North Canaan library? They have a smaller building to maintain, no fewer staff, and not nearly as robust programming as we have. And I also like to make the point that the $15,000 extra isn't new, it's catching up. The library has been underfunded by the town for decades. And we have tapped out the largesse of the people in this community and their ability to donate to make up the rest of our budget. I think it's time that in addition to the 138 households who donate to the library regularly, all the rest of the 444 households in town can ante up a little bit to support this institution that serves everyone by increasing the contribution that taxpayers make to the library. I'd also like to point out that with this increase, Hunt Library, which is open 5 days a week and serves everyone in the community, will still only be receiving 2/3 of what the Rec Commission budget is per capita in this town. And not to knock the Rec Commission, I think they should get more too. But for a facility that's open 3 months a year and programming maybe once a month, for us to get, less 2/3 of what they get, when we are operating a building year round, staffing programs year round is not making a lot of sense to me. So once again, I'd like to appeal to you to keep the increase into the library, to make up for the years gone by when we've received, unlike most towns in Connecticut, 20% or less of our operating budget from our municipality. And make up for it in the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. Any other comments before?
Hey, Glass, I'd like to second, especially what Roxanne said. Offer my endorsement of the feeling that Dave Barger said about his budget reflecting the values of what we see as important.
Mary?
Can I have a couple of minutes from Zoom?
It's really all on Zoom.
Let me recognize Meg first, let her go, and then
I'm Meg Shar, I'm the director of the library. I'm also a Falls Village resident. I want to highlight some things we've done over the past year to partner with other community organizations to create more robust programming and services in our town. We worked with Kellogg to provide after-school programming and programs on half-day professional development days, both of which have helped with the lack of childcare for school-aged children in Falls Village. More than a dozen Kellogg kids came to this year for the first time. Letters Are Characters, an early literacy program, was debuted in the kindergarten class thanks to a grant the library was awarded from the Northwest Connecticut Community Foundation. The library's partnerships with the Rec Commission this year have brought new programs and events to our town. The Fall Festival, which was attended by more than 100 people, a New Year's celebration for children, the Earth Day program that some of you took part in this last Saturday, and soon a summer concert series on the lawn of the library. The Hunt has worked with the Creative Kids Club to enhance their camp programming both last summer, and we will do so again this summer. Our current collaboration with the Historical Society, the Vintage Photo Exhibit from Great Falls to the Hilltops, have brought dozens of people into the library to view photography that tells the story of our town. Tomorrow morning, each grade from Kellogg will visit the exhibit, and volunteers from the library and the Historical Society will answer questions and talk about what Falls Village used to be like in the olden days. The Hunt was chosen as one of 6 libraries this year to partner with Libraries Without Borders, and together we created Village Voices, a community storytelling pathway that highlights the experiences of our community, from kids in the daycare, people in the equity group, and these examples show the incredibly important place that the library holds in our community, not just an educational center and a gathering place for our neighbors, but as a catalyst for community, reaching beyond the Hunt's 4 walls to make a positive and needed impact in our town. The Hunt works hard to raise funds in many different ways, running dozens of fundraising events each year, utilizing hundreds of hours of dedicated volunteer time, and applying for grants. 4 grants we were awarded this year funded special projects of the library. The costs for everything have gone up, and many of the programs we began this year have new costs associated with them that are outside of our current operating budget. And we are asking the town to increase our funding to help with these costs, as well as the costs associated with new initiatives that we'd like to begin, such as material delivery for homebound residents. We believe that the Hunt's importance in our community, the iconic historic building, the role as an educational resource, our community building and partnerships all make Falls Village a better place, and that the monetary costs associated with the library are something the community has shown they will gladly support. We request that the Board of Finance keep the additional $15,000 in the municipal budget for the library.
thank you.
Julia,
On Zoom?
Alt had a comment. Julia, unmute.
Yes, thank you. I just want to second what I've just heard from Meg and from Roxanne Whitaker. I live in the Falls Village Library and think it's an essential part of the community. It's like the to me equal to other institutions. It's like the secular lifeblood. I think the programming is amazing that has been brought forward this year. I partake of many of the library programs. I've learned so much about this community. I've met people in the community through the library. I think it says a lot about our town that we support this facility and the programs that are about learning and community and education and are essential. And I support increasing the budget to continue the kinds of programs that in my mind are vital to a healthy town. Thank you.
One more.
May I say something, Tony Siegel?
Go ahead. And then
Okay.
we'll.
Thank you. I ditto everything everybody said in favor of the library, and I don't have a lot of statistics, but what I do have is years of being in the library, years of coming in, looking around, picking up a magazine, and most important, seeing other people come in. And I think it might do you guys, before you make a decision, spend some time in the library, see the look on the children's faces, see how when they're running around having a wonderful time, see the look on the parents' faces who are so relieved that the library staff can help their children with their reading. And I think that if you spent time there, you would be enveloped in the library-ness of the Hunt Library and the warmth. And I think this might be an easier decision for you to add some funds, because you would see really what it's buying. And I just wanted to say that it's the intangibles that are so powerful in that space.
Thank you.
Point of order,
Last comment?
Mr. Chairman, point of order, we're past our 15-minute time.
We did,
This
but
is the last comment.
we had both of them come in at the same time, so we
Fair enough.
made it, yeah.
Okay, quick remark. I'm Bosco Shell. I live in Falls Village and I'm a newbie. I came here 8 years ago. In my previous residence, which was in Westchester County, I was head of the library board, a much wealthier community, lots of programs going on. People coming in and out, yes. I came to Falls Village, and to get involved with the community, I joined the library. First as a friend, and then I went on the board. The library has been my home in a lot of ways. I made reference to one of the parties that the library has held in the winter, and there it was with kids crawling all over the floor, people having a great time, people reading poetry, people telling about their lives. What better place is there than the library in Falls Village to husband and to increase a wonderful community life? And I think it needs all the support that you can get. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll proceed. I'd just like to state that
Here at.
No, the 15 minutes is up.
Have our.
we'll have a public comment at the end.
Right.
The function, really the duty of the Board of Finance is, I think, very simple to formulate and very difficult to execute. We are trying to perform a balancing act. And on the one hand, we have the goods and services and wages necessary to provide those services and functions that we're used to and that we enjoy and that make Falls Village unique. On the other hand, we have a prudent and reasonable general fund, a conservative enough policy to provide for any unforeseen emergencies and circumstances that we don't know about. And lastly, of course, we are trying to lessen to the maximum extent the burden on the taxpayers. We're certainly aware of where we are relative to other towns, relative to the size of our grant list. It's a lot of state forest, a lot of tax exempt property in this town. And that's what we have. That's what Falls Village is. To balance those three is a difficult task. And that's what we're going to attempt to do tonight.
Mr. Chairman, before you embark upon putting everything together, I just need for you to look at one line. If everyone would look at their one line tonight, because I want them to have the latest information. This is something we just received this morning.
What page?
You would be looking at social services, line number 1019.
Yes.
Okay, and this is so you have the latest numbers. And again, this just came in just too late for publishing. For the year adult day center transport, we had looked at the expenditure of being $7,350. We are assessed, and I believe our social service agent is here. I believe we are assessed by the number of uses for that particular transport. So subsequently, it has gone up.
Yes, it's
So-
based on the number of rides.
Rides.
To residents here in.
Oh, the transportation.
So it's up.
Yeah, that's what medical transports, doctor's appointment transports, so they're very necessary for residents in town.
So it's up a mere $147. Your new figure should be $7,497.
Yeah, that thing. Thank you. I myself is a beneficiary of that service for a full year, so I can appreciate the value of it.
The 114.
All right, I would like to suggest a format for proceeding. I think we should proceed through the tweet that Chief Denise is very gracefully and very helpfully prepared. I think it's what I'd like to do is have discussions initiated by any of the board members over any particular line item within each section. And then we'll sort of take a consensus or a straw poll among ourselves, see whether we want to earmark that for consideration. Denise can keep track of those, and then we can see where we are at the end of the evening. Amy?
Is there a similar version for revenue comparisons? This is expenses, right? It's just expenses.
Yes.
Very good. So we don't have that.
Michelle just give us a new revenue review.
Yeah, we have the report from Michelle. I'll just double check. See if I.
So we'll start with the section 1001 selecting expenses. And unless Dave is willing to work pro bono, which I don't think he is. The only item here that I would ask about is the increase in the garden maintenance, which is a reasonable increase over the last 4 years. Dave, can you illuminate that particular projection?
Right now, that's my projection. Would you mind? I have a resident expert here that might be able to speak to that. And Roxanne, I
Go through that
need
with
to
every
look
single-
over at you
We
and
can't
perhaps
do that.
go,
We can't do that for every line.
For the expenditure.
Right, I would imagine that the cost of flowers and so forth have gone up. I'm not a gardener.
Oh, that changed.
You bring up these lines, we don't all have your.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Okay, we have a proposed expenditure of
$3,000.
compared to an average over the last 4 years of 1,500.
We can't get
Sorry.
everybody.
It's
Get
also
everybody
Tom Scott.
in the conversation.
Yeah, I can speak to that then.
Can I make a point of order on this? And I don't mean to, please don't take this personally, but we can't go and ask members of the community for their input on something. We need to discuss this numbers wise. There is nothing personal here, at least with me, toward anybody in this room. I'm sure that people don't like me and I may not like some of you, but these are numbers.
I don't think she's
Okay, yeah,
justifying it.
But no,
She's
she's,
explaining an
but she does that,
expense.
well, that we can't get it, if everybody explains something going along and we have to turn to somebody, that's not part of the discussion. This is something we have to do. And then in public comments, if they want to acknowledge what we've said, then they can respond to it. But to stop the meeting for input from out there, I don't think is appropriate. You don't have to agree with me, but there is room for public comment at the end where an explanation can be made. We just have to look at the numbers and say, what can we cut?
I
What
don't
can't
think we
cut?
can do that without the information necessary.
If I may, and only speaking as an ex officio member here, I think to have the resident experts, because we do have some of the resident experts here who can speak to those numbers as you go through and give a little bit clearer
Unless it gets
picture
too
of
long.
what each expenditure is.
Then maybe what we could do is we could just make an inquiry around the table. Do we need any further explanation? Because here we have, I'm sorry, I know there are people on the Zoom and if there's humming, they can't.
We can't help those the alarms going off.
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry, I can't hear it. Sorry about that.
Just now make sense.
So, You know, the question is, you've answered it a little bit. The question is to the group, do we need further explanation from someone who has expertise? Unfortunately, like Tim has left and that's an expert that's not in the room now, but you know, it does help to have questions answered if we have questions.
Well, I think we
I
have
don't
numbers
think-
from the past that show what we spend and what we haven't spent, which gives us an indication of what, where we might
So
be
just-
able to cut and then get the questions answered at the end, because otherwise we could be here all night. I don't know about you, I don't want to be here all night.
We made fees, it's a process.
Yeah.
And this is money out of our taxpayers' pockets.
One general comment and then a question, just so people know where we sit today. If we made no further cuts, if we accepted the budget that the selectmen presented as revised, to put it in context, the mill rate would increase anywhere from 1.5 to 1.8 mils, depending on how much money is left over in the general fund, which is somewhat fluid at this point. So that's where we are right now, 1.5 mils to 1.8 mils. That's a 7.5% to 9% increase in taxes. So that's where we will be if we pick nothing. That's our challenge here. So everybody is very sincere, I'm sure, about the functions in town that they support. But if we cut nothing, that's where we will be. My question is this, there's $3,000 budgeted. The average spent over the 4-year period from 19 to 23 was something like $1,500. And so far this year, we've spent nothing at all. So it raises the question in my mind, whether this line, useful it is as it is to the town, whether it's over budgeted. Why have we not spent any of the $3,000 budget? There's only 2 months left in it. Maybe somebody, if somebody in the audience knows the answer to that, I would appreciate knowing that.
You have.
Roxanne.
When the town hall was repainted, all of the window boxes on the front of town hall were removed. Part of that $3,000 is to purchase new window boxes to install across the front, which we couldn't do until the painting was completed. And the weather was warm enough to make installing and planting them happen. Window boxes, a permanent commercial style window box for all of these windows are kind of expensive. That'll be a big chunk of the 3,000. Part of the 1,500 that's regularly spent is to pay Tom Scott, who maintains by pruning much of the town landscape that's not dealt with by the town crew. And then about $250 will be used to add additional plantings to all of the native pollinator gardens in order to start increasing the number of plants we have that are blooming for the whole season, as opposed to right now, we kind of have a couple of different months where it looks great and the rest of the time there's nothing in there, and some plants will be added there. So that's one reason why we asked Dave to hold the 3,000 budget, because this year we might actually get by replacing the window boxes and putting in new plants.
They're perennial.
Yes,
They're
yeah,
perennial plants.
will last forever.
I'd like to make one comment. Just to add what John was saying about the mill rate. Last year, I believe we dropped the mill by 2. So we're getting, and I don't know, most everybody, I was against that last year. I didn't think that was healthy. I didn't want to see this, and now we're falling into it. So we've got to keep that in mind. Last year, everybody, it was, a lot of people thought we had too much money in reserve. So we dropped the mill rate, took it out of the reserve. Well, here we are. And further point would be that, to John's point, that the mill rate is flexible. It's based on the general fund and where that ends up. So whether or not we decide to stick to that 12.5% or dip that down to alleviate some of the mill increase is also on the table. Be discussed.
And then I had just some question. Is there a number that we are where are we with the Board of Education budget at this point in time? Does anyone have a number for that one?
I don't know if they've met yet.
Cut it 20,000.
Yeah,
They cut it 20,000.
She gives us assurance that she's gonna make the point.
you are meeting tomorrow. Yeah, I knew because of vacations, you guys weren't able to meet.
But Pat did say that
She would. pull the
she would
phone.
try to get 20,000
Mhm.
down on it.
The number that we're thinking we might.
We asked them to take $50,000 out of their budget and it looks like they're gonna do that.
I know, does anyone have the actual end
We have
number?
the end number for the Board of Education. Very good, things.
That's 20,000 less than
Yeah, it did.
3,702.
I just don't have the budget in front of me.
It's what?
I can do them.
Yeah, 'cause I think it's
Something for another time.
Mhm.
3,702,571. That's
37,
taking
yes, minus 20.
Yeah.
3,702,051.
571
Minus 20 or minus 50?
minus 20 because we added.
Yes.
Maybe shot 30.
Okay. No, we haven't had, we're just in the discussion stages of it.
We want to make a note of this for discussion at the end for the garden maintenance, or we're going to accept the proposed. What's the feeling of the board?
Well, my feeling is we should resolve the lines as we go.
As we
Yeah.
go.
I think
Otherwise,
that's-
we're gonna need several meetings. So there's a $3,000 increase that's proposed. None of it, in the current year, that's what the budget is as well. We're told that it's all gonna be spent, so the, concern I had that we were over budgeting appears to be, not accurate, that they are actually gonna spend the money.
John, it's
I would agree.
$1,400, 77 increase, not 3,000.
Well, the proposal, the budget for this year is 3,000. And I understand that much less than the prior years. But that $1,477 number you're looking at, that's the excess of $3,000 over the last.
Over the last budget, yes, the last number.
Average. So they're asking for an increase. They're spending all of it. So it's not a case of over budgeting. So I think the question before us is whether we want to pinch this or let it alone.
We'd have to eliminate what that money is being spent for,
Yes.
aka the window boxes, and I don't think that's our job here tonight.
Well, it's
So to the extent that we
It is
feel
our job.
that this budget is warranted, I think we should move on to the.
Do we
next.
have actual prices on the window boxes yet? Do we know what those are?
No, we do not. We have to measure and get a bit.
Want me to put a question mark next to
Yes.
it?
Well, no, I think.
Everybody's gonna defend their budget line, and I think we need to look at
that's
this.
definitive. I think we should move on.
Well, I think we need to take pulse of the whole.
All right, I mean, okay.
Yeah. Do we need a motion for a vote or?
No, I don't want to do a motion on every line item.
No, last year was,
Try to get a
last
consensus.
last year was 2,500, right?
No, last year it was,
3,000.
3,000, it's been 3,000.
budget.
1923 approved budget of 2,500. So that's in there.
Last year, and then this.
If I can say this, maybe
Yeah.
it'll help the discussion on this line and on others. What I was looking for in this sheet that Denise put together exhibits it very clearly. Are any expenditures that just on their own look like they're outsized or are very recent in nature, something that catches the eye? This is not one of them. But the other category of things that I was looking for are in light of the fact that we end up with about $100,000 left over year after year after year, we are in general over budgeting. Whether we're over budgeting on this line is the question, and it does not seem to me that we are.
No, seems appropriate. I think it's good.
I agree.
I'm comfortable with it.
Rest of the board? Then I think we should move on to the town hall expense.
Did you guys? Okay.
I'm not gonna get anywhere with that one.
And the largest spike there is a substantial increase in the projection for maintenance of the website.
Before we move on to town hall expense, one question for Dave. We've been talking about these numbers. Line 15 on that sheet,
Yes,
what is the dissemination of public communication?
That is sending out different communications that would be mailings. As you know, we have a USPS, well, not just the post office box, but I'm talking about we have an account where we send out different mailings,
So bulk mailing or?
bulk mailings.
Okay.
And again, sometimes that's all used, John, sometimes it's not, and it depends on communications we need to get out.
Well, if you look at the last 4 years, it was only used in 1 year. So is there a possibility that something is being put there because you were short in another line?
No,
So 1 year out of 4, we have expenses for this, but only 1 year out of 4. Is it a regular function?
it's a regular function.
Well, how did we get away with not spending any money on it?
Because I think what happened here, John, was a lot of it had to do with COVID. Again, when we look at all these numbers that we have, and again, I know our COVID credit card, I like to use that term, has kind of run out.
Mhm.
But again, in order to get those out, I mean, if it's one of those things where we have a problem coming back to the Board of Finance, looking for that money at a later time, then that's fine, but I think I would leave it in there because we can always utilize it for the dissemination of public communications.
It's a small amount of money. It just looks strange
Didn't even
that,
know what it was, that's why.
that we spent none of it, in 3 of the 4 years in the past. Okay.
For town hall?
For town hall. Does any of the board members have a question?
I have a question, but it's not a criticism
Okay.
or, I want to know why or what our phone system is that we spend that much money on a phone system here. It just, number just seems outrageous. I'm not doubting the numbers. Just what is it that we're paying for?
Or paying for the multiple lines. Again, I don't have all the answers, Carol, nor would I pretend to have all the answers, but it's the phone system that, if I'm mispronouncing it, I'm gonna look at our treasurer, Iea,
So that, yes, Avaya.
Avaya, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But
It's been blocked out on my phone.
So it includes our Frontier bill for our phone service every month, plus the Avaya, which is our phone system.
Right.
Answering and voicemail and transferring and.
Is anybody looking into, and I'm just asking this question as to whether or not there's another system that we could get now
Yes.
that, you know, either through Frontier or something that's.
We actually looked through Frontier, and if you remember, last year Frontier had given to the Board of Finance a presentation.
Mhm.
And
Remember the numbers. but-
okay, and it was much higher than this, almost double. But what that had was a redundant phone system and things that would be nice to have in an emergency, which we don't have,
We don't
but
have.
it's just one of those things. We couldn't afford it. So this is where we are.
No,
So-
23, that was 23 adjustment.
So that explains the difference between 13,246 and you proposed 20. Is that much difference?
And we're projecting that, again, realize that we don't deal in averages when we put together our budget, we deal in specifics. And in dealing with specifics, Steve, this is what we have projected. Now, is there a chance it might be less? Yes. Okay, but it's not to be looked at as padding. Again, we are looking at what it might be.
No, but I mean, it's gonna be an added, we're getting more than we were getting in the past. It's not just an increase.
You
An
mean,
increase.
It's just an increase.
you mean we're still on the telephone, you're talking about the
Right,
telephone.
we're not getting it, we're not getting.
Nothing is getting improved, that's why I was asking, what do we get?
Okay, that's what you're talking about, line 24?
No, line 23, line 23, yeah,
Yes.
we haven't gotten to 24 yet.
Okay. That's when it stuck with me.
I know, it jumped out at me as well. So we're done with 23, I guess, because that was just a question I had, yeah, that's a question, yeah. Okay, now we move on to 24. I just want to know, that's a huge increase. What that entails or why?
I can tell you there's a number of things that go on here, and I'm gonna look over at my treasurer a little bit here this evening. As you know, the quality data system has gone up, vision has gone up. You'll see those reflected in the assessors and so on. The cost, and I believe I'm looking back at our tax collector, and I'm sorry to look at our tax collector, but she can tell you. And she's done a great job, by the way. We're at 99.1 collection rate, but the cost of technology has gone up significantly.
And we're in 24.
And you do have a resident expert here on your board, and again, Tom, if you would like to speak to that, because you're in on ground floor of that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the price of the cost of technology is going up across the board everywhere, and unless we want to make some decisions about services rendered, different platforms, different support staff, I think you're gonna have to eat whatever costs come along to solidify the technology platform that you have here. I mean, security,
I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
It just seemed like
I'm
a
just-
tremendous jump, and I just wanted to question
I mean,
it.
that's, yeah, I wish it was this little, for my job.
And thank you for asking that question, because that is.
It is, it's gonna, what are we doing, you know?
Well, that was what my previous question was, is whether we were getting more for. It's just an increase for the same
In the cost.
services.
Yeah.
You might be getting some additional security and some other things.
But that's.
That's the big one. The big one is security. You pay for that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna spend all of it?
Insurance requirements,
What's that?
it's current insurance requirements.
Right,
That are
also.
leading us to have all these social security.
Right, security.
It actually pays off, Carol, in the end, when we look at Kerma had no increase for us.
Is there a contract, Dave, that obligates us to pay this money, or this is just?
Right now, we're working with you, protecting the services as needed.
So are we gonna have a contract with them?
We can establish, they've never established a contract with them, and that actually predates me.
Okay.
And we're gonna spend all that we've budgeted for. So I know we're at 14, just under 15,000 right now.
To be honest with you, Ginger, I would hope that we wouldn't, but I'm thinking that we will. And again, in order to fulfill all those security requirements that we need to.
Any other comments on the town hall expense or questions? Then we'll move on to 1003 legal expenses. And as a summary order, based on year-to-date expenditures and expenditures over the last 4 years, I have some difficulty projecting $6,000 for the town council and $4,500 for litigation. And that's a major piece of litigation I'm aware of.
None right at this moment, David.
We're thinking the same thing. I think it could be something more that we would.
I mean,
had to go to the general fund.
This is an item, this is an item that the board can vote an increase for if it arises.
Right.
But this may be a case, in my opinion, where we can trim the budget.
Very much so.
Agreed. So I'm looking at what we spent over I'm surprised you spent this little on town council, over the past 4 years.
That's actually a good thing, John.
It's you're professional. But we do seek advice from council, I thought, on a fairly regular basis.
We do, but the council that we have often renders that without any charge.
Right.
That's not to say that that might change.
And we also have not had any major litigation.
We have not had any major litigation.
I think there's a place where we can really cut it
Yeah,
big time.
as long as you don't have a problem of us coming back, if we.
If you do, you go to the town or you come here, and obviously if a town has a huge problem, they're not all gonna say no. So I think that we can take a chance on it.
I agree.
I would propose that we leave 1,000 in the town council line and eliminate the litigation line altogether.
Yes, I agree with that.
Leave it at $1.
Leave it at $1. Yeah, leave it at $1.
So -5 and -44.99.
So I think those were our first real cuts,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So we just, eliminated what?
$7,400.
$9,500.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
9,400.
And that takes us to the item at 10005, Board of Assessors. Questions or comments? I don't remember. Significant increase in computer services in a, if I understand it, a non-assessment year.
Well, this is the vision, right?
What we're doing, we're purchasing the GIS.
Yes, okay,
Okay.
yes, that's right. I'm
Which
sorry, Dave.
by state statute 7-1.
Yes, that's right.
Have to do.
Yeah, okay.
QDS quality
Really?
data systems.
That's not-
and
no,
vision
that's what it is.
systems.
Anyway, I was
Significantly.
trying to find it.
And can you just say that last one?
Oh, I'm sorry. We have three things, Amy. We have
Yeah.
the GIS. We have QDS, quality data system. And we have vision appraisal. And they have all gone up. And I again, look at your resident expert here on your board. He'll tell you all those are going up.
Is the bulk of it the GIS?
The bulk of it's the GIS.
Yeah.
And we are not getting any state funding for it.
We are not getting any state funding, but
Okay,
uh,
that's fine.
Connecticut General Statute 7-100 is asking us to have it done by the end of this year. If we don't have it done within a year, we start paying penalties for it. We're not having it.
And what is a GIS?
It's the goal.
Geographical information system.
Information, thank you.
Okay, so it's location.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, and it can be used, as a matter of fact, it can be utilized by everyone from the fire department through the assessor.
Right.
Through the average citizen
Thank you.
here in town.
We have legal
I'm
fees.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Is mine.
Oh.
If anybody wants to.
Our assessor is on,
Where is she?
We don't have any questions.
okay,
She's on Zoom, so she's prepared to.
okay, if you have any more specific questions, you can ask her. I'm sorry, I didn't know she was on,
Well, it's either do that or pay fines.
eventually.
We have the two things, again, we have legal fees there and also the schooling. We doesn't seem like we've used any of the schooling, not much of the schooling, so I don't know what the story with that is, what schooling is needed.
We need the schooling for the GIS software.
Training.
You're going to need some schooling for the GIS software. But I can't tell you exactly how much, and you may want to ask Kayla regarding that.
No, it's
Not
not, but
okay.
Any other questions on the 1005?
Move on to 107. Yes, excuse me. 107.
I just question with the Board of Assessment Appeals, I just want to know what are their expenses?
Salaries.
The Board of Assessment Appeals, they're paid?
This is legal notices and compensation for time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So now it's our budget.
I understand the audit is now, it's under contract, that's correct?
That is
Correct.
So that is what it is.
Yep.
Printing costs based on last year, they've gone up.
Has that report been printed yet? And, okay, so we have an actual, see, I see that.
It's much higher this year
Yeah.
because there was, the front and back cover and the inside is heavier paper in color. As a city fire department for their 100th year. So it would be closer to $1,000 without that.
Just, do there, anybody have any suggestions in this area of our own budget?
Do we want to entertain the same move that the Board of Selectmen did with the secretary and salary to special meetings?
I don't.
I don't, I'm not ready to take minutes.
I
Me either.
think it's hard
Tried it
to
once.
pay attention to the business that's going on.
Right.
Running the Zoom and
Right.
taking minutes. So
Okay.
I think that's money well spent.
Denise
I think we should drop
Yeah,
the legal
Denise
fees.
has a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not a lot, but maybe the legal fees of 500, even just taking that down to $1.
We probably could.
I know it's not much, but. it's
Where are you?
something.
honey?
Legal fees.
57.
Line
Oh,
57,
okay.
but it counts.
Counts.
Right, and we've spent no money in the last
No,
forever.
4 years, yeah.
So why don't we take that down to $1?
Okay.
So minus 499. Only because I help with the annual report. It's gonna be $1,000 and you only budget 600. We
Oh.
want to add 400.
Where are you?
Typing it?
No, printing.
That's a thousand.
Good with Al. Yep.
Yeah, 600. Are they one and the same for the 1,700 for this
Six
year?
hundred is typing and 1,000 is printing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking,
Yeah, I said it's cross.
I of all people should know.
Okay,
Well, I guess it's a good question though. It's 1,700. I know
and that was for the anniversary.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in the typing, so.
Yes,
we haven't-
Yes, there is
we
600.
haven't Spent anything in the typing this year.
Yeah, are
We
getting-
spent 17.
Yeah, but
It says-
Thank you.
Thank you.
so let's figure that was just a matter of getting.
So we assume that the printing of the annual report will go down next year because of the paper use?
It's always black and white. This year it was $700 more, $710 more.
Paper and
because-
color.
Because of the color, right?
Very good.
Alright,
So can we go to the next section? Is that okay?
1008 tax collector, any questions on items there?
Assistant tax collector, it looks like we really haven't spent much on that at all. Put that increase in there. Is that just what we always?
Do you have a question?
No, I'm looking, I'm reading here. So, yeah, this year. We've spent $100. But we're budgeting 1790,
I think. Is that
the assistant tax collector.
right?
Average over the last 4 years was 172.
Right, but we're budgeting $1,790.
Have we, are we not expecting to have more hours for that assistant?
Well, she hasn't had many over the last 4 years.
Tax collector.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
the numbers tell you that we haven't used it. That's my point. And we're almost at the end of the year, so.
Is it setting up the system for next year that we're gonna?
No, I just think it's something,
The average has been very low.
I think we can take some of that away, and take 1,000 off of that, and, that leaves us with 790, and that's, well within the average over the last 4 years.
We just asked the tax collector while we're. Gonna ask a question of.
Well, well, Rebecca,
She's gonna say yes.
it's higher.
Well, I am fortunate that Goshen is maintaining the training on my tax collector assistant. And so I don't need to maintain the training on her right now. I don't know how long she will remain that.
Who is assistant? Who's the assistant tax collector?
Two designated assistants, Matt Miller
Right.
and Maureen Lamana. Maureen Lamana works in Goshen,
Okay,
and so we only bring her in when it's absolutely needed.
which
Right.
hasn't really been.
So this isn't training though, this is.
This is
actual
salary.
Salary.
Right, so I just think I think we can cut it $1,000.
I agree.
I agree.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Any other questions on tax collector? Move on.
Well,
to-
dues and training, we pay for your training, Goshen doesn't pay for your training, right? I mean,
I think it's split in thirds.
okay. Cause that's a considerable jump too. 300 to 11.
Is there expected additional training for next year that you're anticipating, Rebecca?
It fluctuates based on the classes that are out there. I'm required to have 50 hours, which is free certification. Some years I take a lot, some years I take free stuff, or, $5 things.
Yeah.
It just depends.
But that dues, is that, the certification covers that kind of stuff, right? But this is just dues for what? I guess I'm asking what dues is.
Dues and training.
I just don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking what.
Dues, so there's Litchfield County Tax Collector Association,
Okay.
the State Association, and the
Or what I have to do.
Association.
Right.
Can you guesstimate for us how much of that you'll spend? So it's 1,150 that's budgeted.
Two conferences at $900, two state meetings at $100. And that's for the upcoming year. And if there's something beneficial, then I'm more likely to take it this year versus next year. I want to take things that are worthwhile.
And is it shared between the towns?
Yes.
That's 900 times 2 plus, okay.
Yes. We can get cut in thirds.
Third. So 900 plus a couple of $100 conferences, total of about 1,100.
Each college conferences
Divided by 3.
Divided by 3.
divided by 3, plus the 2 training seminars, and I have the numbers in my office.
Right. Are those other expenses divisible by 3 as well? Are they shared with the other towns?
Anything in that line is shared.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're getting close to 1150, I think. Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna trim.
Can I ask a non-budget question of her? That's just, because you're not gonna stay here. Are you gonna stay here for the whole meeting until the end, and so we can ask I didn't think so. Question for you. When you give us the number that we've taken in 99.1 or 90, whatever the revenue is this year, does that include the foreclosure sales? So that number.
The 99% is strictly relating to collective tax versus tax collected. It doesn't, no back taxes included in that amount. No interest, liens, or fees are included in that.
So that's just this year's.
That's just this year.
That you've been able to collect 99.
$2,000 left.
That's what I wanted to know, because I didn't know what you did with that money. I not that you did with it, but where you included it in your.
Right, so tax sale money, majority of it, the 100,000, that was back taxes mostly.
Right, and I don't know where that comes into play with,
Calculation, right.
it's not in that calculation.
Actually, building on your question, and since you're not gonna be here for
Right.
the whole meeting, I also wondered, we don't seem to add any of the prior year's taxes or interest lien taxes, specifically the latter, into our revenue projections. Is that because we're being very safe and careful? Yes.
In other words, once you
So
get that money, where does it go?
It's ours, but Michelle is saying don't count on it.
Back taxes and fees and liens.
Okay.
It's not part of your budgeting process. This town budgets 100% of the current grand list. We don't budget for the others like other towns do.
And we don't budget for interest and liens specifically, lien fees.
Correct.
And I wonder, that's almost 70,000.
So
That's what I'm trying to find. Where is it? Where would it come into play with how we determine what we
Added to your revenue.
added to the, that's what I thought we added to the revenue, but you.
I wouldn't go as far as doing prior year's taxes because Rebecca said does such an amazing job. You just never know if you're always going to get
Yeah.
100%.
You don't have to.
So are we of the mind that dues and training is adequately set?
Yeah, yes.
That would move us on to section 109, treasury. Some questions?
Yeah, the biggest increases in personnel.
You mean line 75 through 77 combined? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, those are the biggest increases.
So I have a question. For on the deputy treasurer line, the $6,200. If you look at the previous years, deputy treasurer, we didn't spend that kind of money, but we did have an issue, well, I don't mean issue, but the transition from Linda to Michelle, where we authorized $3,500. And it seems that
for training?
for training, it seems like that kind of made that number stick, and that number's still in there, and I think that we need to look at that number. As far as, because for additional training, I have an issue with that $6,200. It seems like we're just giving another $3,500 after we already gave the $3,500. And I think that that's, again, not a reflection on personnel, but a reflection on what we agreed to back then with the 3,500 and where we are now. I think that's an incredible increase.
If I could address that first before the treasurer, number one, okay, you realize we are moving over to QuickBooks, and it will be a transition that will require some training. I'm not sure how many hours of that will be training. I'm not even sure exactly what the cost is to the town for that training, but there will be that transition.
You have a very little in the training room.
We actually cut the training line. The training line was at 1,000, we cut it to 600. Okay, but again,
And that's just for the cost of someone to train, not for the personnel to do the hours for the
right, and
training.
here where you're looking is to take the hours to do the training.
Right.
I'm not sure how many hours, but there will be a transition of all our books, if you will. I'll look again to
How much
two
money
of
has
your
been spent?
resident members here on resident experts, number one with technology, and number two, someone who does that type of work. Ginger, would realize the amount of training that you need there. The other thing, and I speak quite frankly here, quite transparently, okay, a lot of things come up at the beginning of the year, okay, and at the end of the year that Michelle has not done, okay, because she was deputy treasurer, and our deputy treasurer is Linda. Linda has been through it all, and she is doing additional training with Michelle.
To complete the year and the whole.
Exactly.
Full gamut.
Exactly. And I'll defer now to our treasurer if she has anything to say.
I agree with Dave. There's stuff coming with the transition to QuickBooks, which Linda and I would like to do together so that we train to the same level together. And also with year end going into the new fiscal year and doing that for the first time, I would like her set of eyes also.
Well, is there any way that we could look into this from a bookkeeping standpoint? And again, this is not about people, it's about numbers, all right? That I hate to ask this in front of everybody because I don't know if it's appropriate, but somebody can tell me if it isn't. But when we started Michelle, whom I adore, okay, we started her at what Linda left at. So in other words, she picked up that salary. So most businesses wouldn't do that, just saying, okay, you going into business, you don't take somebody that's been there for 20 some odd years, 30 years, and they say, see you later, and then give the person that's coming in new. So it's not a reflection on who you are or what your job is. Let me finish, please. So I'm looking at this $3,500 and saying, she needs the training. If she wants the training, can we pull it out of her salary, the bookkeeper salary or the treasurer's salary, and just drop her salary down a little to give it to Linda? And that way, Linda's still here. We appreciate that, but the training part of that is coming out of Michelle's salary.
No, you can't.
And why is that?
We've never, that's in my knowledge, I don't believe statutorily that's correct.
I don't know.
Although I'd have.
I don't know the answer to that.
I'm being quite transparent with that. I don't think that we can reduce the salary after already paying that salary.
Can I also just say that I'm not taking the 3.5?
Right, we didn't give you a raise this year, if you noticed, to because this is our first year.
Just my question.
Yeah, there's being from corporate in the past, there's different schools of thought on what a position pays. And I think sometimes a position pays a certain amount and you fill it versus what that person.
It's a hard discussion to have,
It's
but I
one of
think
those things
that
I think it's a wash.
we operate as a business, and we have we're running a $6 million business here. We need to be able to look at everything and not have anybody take anything personally, but it's, we have to look at those
Furthermore, I don't believe the average over the last 4 years plays well here because of the fact that we have to ramp up a town hall that's been using the same software for 20+ years into something completely brand new and foreign, it's gonna take more hours for those people to learn the software. Otherwise, we're gonna have different kinds of problems that we're not gonna like.
I just a question in this whole vein. So I can understand why the book, I mean, are,
Where's the
is,
bookkeeping?
is the training or the additional hours needed for the learning and the transition, is it spread over both Michelle's role as bookkeeper and treasurer?
Again, we are very, very unique as a town. We have those two positions, that's one position.
Right, but
So everything would overlap, the bookkeeping, the treasurer's position, those two.
so we have two separate lines though, and I'm just
Right.
saying, have you, I would expect, you know, the bookkeeping to go up, of course, because you're setting up everything, but I wouldn't expect treasurer's salary to go up, but that's why I'm asking the question.
I would, again, what I would say to you, Amy, is that those jobs overlap each other in this particular town. Okay, although I would like to tell you they're two separate jobs, which they are, but they overlap. So what our new treasurer is learning is not just the treasurer's job, but also bookkeeping.
And when you come right down to it, we're very close to what we're expecting for this year in spite of all that transition and number of hours. So we aren't really seeing a huge increase to this.
And again, we're not a business, we're a governmental entity.
Yeah, I don't see where you can really.
So we operate a little bit.
I think it would be, imprudent to cut this because this is gonna be a very challenging year to switch over to QuickBooks. So unless other people feel otherwise, I'm ready to go to the next one.
I'm
Good.
I'm good with it.
And
because
we
I
are
think
also
it's gonna be
requiring
very
a lot more
complex.
of Michelle than we have required of other treasurers in the past too, as far as detail of it.
I'm okay with this year, but, I would expect that this number will go back down next year.
Next year,
Last year for-
Much like when we get to the line with the registrar of votes,
Give me your.
I go down.
Hedge those that to be in the notes.
Oh. That it go
Actually, if you don't
down.
mind. It just, it helps with history and reference, when we're doing it.
Does that have to be a promotion or no?
It will go down. And so does Linda. She doesn't want to be. here.
Probably very much so.
All right. So we'll move on then to section 1010 for the town clerk.
Dave,
Yeah,
before,
any
can I
comments?
just ask
I'm
one
sorry,
question?
Don.
What's our tally, Denise? Have you kept a running tally at all?
Oh, yeah, it's not much.
No, it's not much.
Penny 51.
2051.
Okay, thank you.
It's almost all legal fees.
Yeah.
So an assistant, in this next section, we have assistant town clerk, but that's interesting. It has historically been hired. But it's because that position was empty for a while.
What happened was, Johanna did not, employ an assistant town clerk last year. All right, it is a line that's been there in the past. I want to go back a little bit historically. Mary Palmer always had an assistant town clerk, someone to cover when she was not here, someone to help during presidential elections, that type of thing. There are busy times here where you do need, you can use two people. I believe, and I would, again, we do have our town clerk here this evening. I believe, Joanna, that you budgeted for how many hours a week?
I asked for the $5,000 to be put back into that line, which was there, and last year I gave that up in part because I knew that I was still learning the job and I wasn't ready to train somebody else. So I'm asking only to have back what I had last year relinquished for that time being. And that's to cover my vacation time and also to allot 3 hours a week for training and to have an assistant here to be able to help with some of the things like election training.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, and so that seems to be in line with what we've been, this seems to be in line with what we've been on the past. The other thing, land recording is going up for some reason.
Which is the,
Line 87.
oh yeah, that's, I want to know, who is that? Can I ask that question? Because I really don't know what land recording is. I mean, I pay $53 if I want to have something recorded, so I don't know what the process is. I just want to know what that's all about.
Land recording.
I believe that that's, the charge for the software that, we're actually in a contract with, that was prior to my administration. That is the program that I use to be able to index all of our land records come in.
So you
That
guys
come
are
in.
thinking it's gonna be $2,000 more this coming in?
Again, I would just refer back to your resident experts who will tell you about technology.
Well, it's not technology.
Like a town employee now.
It's not about technology, it's about records, and I can tell you right now, that's.
About technology or records, it's about the cost.
My software 23-24 was 11,000.
Yeah.
It stayed the same.
It looks like you're gonna be at 9,000.
Yeah, but we're not.
And so
yeah,
I'm
We're
just
not
saying-
done yet. I mean, that's a projection. I can't-
Oh, the software,
You
she
don't-
said it's the software.
There's two different things. There's the software, but there's also a fee per.
Every time you
per
record,
transaction.
Right.
got it.
There's two different, there's.
So every time you record the document,
Right, it's
It's-
it's for land recording to the state.
It's just,
So it's like, there's like a.
I got it.
Yeah.
but this is a contract thing or no?
no, it's
The
a software.
software.
So what I'm asking for is what's the increase for? Is it for the contract on the software or is it?
There's no increase in the last budget.
No, I didn't know what it was, so that was all.
Index renovation,
I have no idea what that is. either.
it's okay. We definitely don't seem to ever expend anywhere near that amount except for 22-23. And have we renovated it sufficiently so that we don't?
We continue to renovate our safe, if you will, our being safe.
What is this, the index, the?
All the indexes of everything from all of our town records. As a matter of fact, this meeting will be indexed.
Okay,
So basically saving the minutes and things like that? Is that what
we
you're-
haven't, we are estimating spending it.
It's all paper as is required by the state. You can have electronic, but you also have to have paper.
Well, we are not, according to the estimate of expenditures, we're not estimating to spend $1,000 this year.
I'm gonna say you have a bill.
No, so each year,
Right.
Johanna, the town clerk, applied for the grants from the state of Connecticut, which you'll see in the historical doc preservation grant, but I think that that's been kept in there in case we don't receive that grant.
Oh, so there's a grant that comes in for this $1,000 every
No,
year?
it's more, it's, I think this year, was it a 6,000?
It looks healthy from
Yeah, but if we don't receive that and we have documents to preserve, there's still line to.
Well, it's more than documents preserved, I mean, I have
Oh.
to replace fines.
I'm sorry, I was on the wrong line, Amy.
Basic expenses to be able to keep these records safe.
Got it. Thank you.
So that's not even budgeted in there.
We get the grant every year.
Thus far, yeah.
Yes.
Thus far, we have.
Many
So
years.
I'm just going on what.
So this is
And then maybe-
essentially.
Can actually
No,
see
they're
it.
on this one. They're on the historic preservation
There's
grant.
never a guarantee with a grant.
I understand that.
I know.
But it's an expense here.
Are we still on the index or are we on?
Yes, we're on the
We
index.
are, okay. So that has nothing to do with the grant, right?
Well, what they're saying is that a grant normally covers the expense of that. But the grant is not guaranteed, so. they
So the
place
grant
it-
that we get for historic preservation grant is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
It makes sense.
Is that the one that comes out of the historic preservation grant or?
Yeah, it's usually, it'll be a walk. If we get the grant.
Which we usually get the grant.
So,
Not all.
This is such a small
Yeah.
number.
Yeah.
That we're debating too
Right.
long, but this is a classic example of something that, okay, we might need it, but it doesn't look like we will. You could come to us, we've got $20,000 to play with every year without going to a town meeting. So budgeting for possibilities, not a good practice.
So should we take it off?
I think it's very It's important. I think the possibility that you're not budgeting for is the grant. You're leaving in there at least the possible $765 or $1,000 that we might need
Right.
to preserve these documents.
But we have $20,000 to play with if we need it.
Right.
For the what
So the
if.
question is, do you budget it in advance or you come to us in the unlikely scenario that we don't get the grant?
I wouldn't put the grant in there, I'd put $1,000.
I would budget for specifics.
But you're not, because you're saying this costs more. The grant is, I guess I'm a little bit confused. It's
They'll
not.
Bare minimum for $1,000. If they get the grant, they'll go whole hog.
Right.
But the grant is for the historic preservation grant, which we've always gotten, which is $5,600, right?
Yeah, but that's not in the budget. Because they don't know if they're gonna get
Oh, I'm for taking the $1,000 out and taking a chance, but that's me.
What do other people feel about that?
it. It's too little to worry about.
Well, but
Well, a lot of littles add up.
we're gonna be at the position at the end where the little things will matter, probably.
Yeah.
Well, they'll add up.
Well, yeah, I don't think we're gonna get to the full number, by the way,
Mhm.
but I think I'm also of the opinion that we could reduce that 1,000 and knowing that if we need the money, they come to the Board of Finance,
Right.
and we give it to them.
Yeah.
So it's a small number.
Yeah.
Leave $1 in there, is that? what we're-
Oh, we probably should, well, yeah, we
Leave it
probably
to
should
the-
leave it down. Yeah, we should.
Okay.
Yeah,
So minus $9.99.
right.
Just to make the math harder.
Okay,
Yeah. Exactly. That's what the Excel's for.
The biggest jump is in the town clerk salary account. And we have an explanation for that already. Going
No,
from, no, from the average, only from the average.
Sorry, Amy, well,
She
I'm
she received
confused.
a 3.5.
With the general, we have an explanation for it, is what I'm
And
saying.
you have the assistant.
Yeah.
clerk.
Okay,
Maybe just a word on dues and training. There's $2,000 in the current year's budget. Same thing is proposed for next year. On average, we spent considerably less than that, and this year, we've spent
Half of that.
about half of that.
That would throw John next year as when our town clerk is not, excuse me, our town clerk is not certified yet. She will be looking for her certification, and then next year you'll see a jump in her pay because she's certified. So the dues and the schooling grow with that certification, so I would leave that budget line.
not to mention bringing on an assistant.
Yeah.
They probably would need some training as well.
Right.
Okay, and I'm probably, I'm maybe speaking out of school here, but I'm sure dues are going up for a lot of these places also. That's all I think.
We have a consensus then on the 101. You 110.
Yeah, because we're leaving the 2,000, right?
yeah, just.
Just taking 999.
No, but we're for the,
We're leaving the 2,000.
Yes, we're leaving.
we're leaving that alone.
Yes.
Sorry, that take us to 10, 11 planning and zoning.
Mm-hmm.
I have an issue to raise with this. This is one of the two items that I think are gonna be controversial, the library being the other. But this one I think is different. If you look at the line 101 for a consultant engineer planner, until 2022, that figure was below $10,000. It was 0 1 year, 3,000, then 8,000. Then it jumped to $25,000. And the proposal for this year is $19,000, which is one less than the current budget. So round numbers, we're spending $20,000 on a consultant engineer planner. Now, I know that the consultant signed a contract 2 years ago for $18,000 to rewrite the zoning regulations. Has that money been spent? Do we know?
That's out of the reserve.
Yeah, we just want to know if that's been spent.
Not all of it, she bills as she does it.
But that comes out of the reserve for that consulting fee. So what do we need this
is
one for?
different.
So this $18,000 in the contract that was signed 2 years ago, that money was placed in the reserve as an addition to the reserve?
The planning and zoning has a reserve that they keep. That's where they,
But that's where that $18,000 went.
I believe, Steve, right? Is that?
As far as I know,
Yeah,
yes, that's where that 18,000 was.
Okay, so we have this reserve that has money. So that if needed, it can be tapped into to rewrite the regulations. So why do we need $19,000 for the consultant
We don't.
this year? My understanding is that the consultant sits through all the planning and zoning commission meetings. Earns $90 an hour, maybe 100, just to be there. I don't think the town is getting value for this.
Mm-mm.
I'm just going to, once again, Steve Koshland, member of the P and Z, perhaps you could address some of this.
My understanding is she's at our meetings as the zoning enforcement officer, not as the consultant. My understanding is that it's also for engineering. We use we did part of the parking plan downtown, so we used Allied Engineering. That comes out of that budget as well. So it isn't specifically just for our consultant. We do utilize that in other ways as well.
Okay, but this year, have you used, have you used any of this line for anything other than the consultant?
As far as I know, I haven't looked through the budget
Right.
specifically, but yes, we have done some engineering expenses.
Okay.
As well, Jordan.
Okay,
And I think that was $700 if I remember correct.
$700?
Yeah, so I still think we can draw it.
Okay. I just think this is,
They would know that.
I think,
it's a case of continuing something that doesn't need to be continued, and it's a rather large number. So we can talk about numbers in a second if other people are similarly disposed, but I think this line should be seriously cut.
I just have a question. Do we know that the $25,000 is part of some sort of trend or an outstanding exercise that occurred that year?
We had our big plan.
Right, which is every 10 years, right?
And that the reserve.
So that just throws off the average,
That was just
but
for
the reserve is used for that,
Right,
so we don't know,
so. I don't know what the 24, but let's see,
24,740.
from 2 years ago would have been for, maybe it was to rewrite those zoning laws.
but they did
But
spend,
that,
it looks like they did
rewriting
spend,
the zoning laws came out of the reserve, so I think that we're in a good position to reduce this considerably.
well, the year to date here is 13.5, so they have spent money out of this line, so. Which is more than the average, so something's trending, I'm not sure what it is.
Well, I'd like to have some clarity on what the money is being spent on, because if significant amounts are being spent for someone to just sit through the zoning meetings, then I just don't think that's value that the town is getting. I'm gonna propose.
Did you get bills for that?
I do, but I'm.
No, I know that, but I mean, so for sitting at the zoning meetings.
Well, there's a zoning, the bill and the consulting bill, and I would have to look.
The zoning enforcement officer sends you a bill? Or? Isn't, so I thought this was salary, I'm sorry. This is just what her budget is.
I see it.
That is salary.
So Michelle.
Then what does she bill you for?
I would have to look, I don't see. So I have.
No, I mean, if she's in zoning enforcement, she gets paid a salary to.
Should be zoning.
Zoning enforcement officer, what other expenses would she have?
So the zoning enforcement is her salary.
Correct.
Then there's a consulting bill.
Right, they're
that
separate.
Itemizes it, but I don't know.
Okay, those are the separate ones.
I would,
Okay.
I can get. information.
No, I don't need that. I just wanted to know that they're two separate things,
bills.
but that's actual salary. So if she comes and sits at the meeting as a zoning enforcement officer, we're not
Yeah.
paying her extra. But if she's sitting there as a consultant, we're paying her extra.
And I would have to get you the itemized.
I would love that if I could.
I can get that.
Pencil that in. Thank you.
I'm similar mind, John.
Pardon?
I'm similar mind on that. To reduce that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna propose that we reduce this to, it's for consultants, engineers and planners. So this, if we reduce it, is gonna put some discipline on the planning and zoning commission to spend the money wisely. And if it is being spent, just to have someone in attendance. I mean, it should be a fairly rare occasion. Talking to the board now, not to you, Steve, but it should be a fairly rare occasion where you need an expert on hand for the meeting itself. Now and then a tough issue comes up, but they're zoning regulations. It's not rocket science. So I would reduce this number to 7,500.
I
I'd
think
say 10,000.
I would cut it to half.
Cut in half.
I'm comfortable with the 75 because I had a lower number, so.
I'm not- I think it's average, and I'm not saying, I wouldn't want to go below the average.
But if you remember, the average
Was
is
hiked up.
bloating.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's not really a regular indicator of what it's gonna be in the future.
I had,
Hard to
again,
tell because we don't know what is made of that 24/7/40.
Well, we know it's a pretty reasonable inference that a big chunk of it was the work done for the PFCD.
Big plan, right?
Yeah,
right,
which is not gonna happen again for 10 years.
Yes.
so I'm comfortable with going to the 75.
How can you put it that far when year to date is 13,590?
Well, because I think the money is not being spent well. That's
That's it.
that's my guess. I don't think there's much oversight over this.
I'd feel safer at 15.
I
I'd feel
I have to
safer
go
at
with
least
John.
10.
I'm gonna suggest 10, we revisit at the end,
So drop it to 10.
the 10. and then revisit it at the end to take-
That's a good idea.
Talk about it.
That's so that we can have further discussion about it because.
All right.
I think-
-9.
All right.
And then we have zoning board of appeals, there's
Second 10.
$500 in there.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know what they spend it on.
And we're saying, because it's not been in previous years, we did a
The attorney
where
fee
the
with
expenses
zoning.
reported. Great.
Is it-
Fine.
Is the question still
Oh,
back?
yeah, wait, we're
11.
planning and zoning.
Sorry.
No,
Got it.
sorry.
Got attorney, we're talking
The
attorney.
attorneys, no, we're
Oh,
going back.
yeah, you know.
We're hitting attorney.
Yeah, let's just eliminate that again if we have.
Fill
a
the
problem.
lawyers.
Fill the lawyers month, yeah, how do you feel? You okay?
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Okay, well,
It's never been used.
It's never been used, I think we leave it at $1.
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. No,
Great. So what did you do?
we're dropping it,
Leaving it at $1.
leaving it at $1,
Yes.
attorney's fees, yeah.
So what's our running tally now, Denise?
It is 22,849. Yep.
22?
22,849.
What does the zoning board of appeals spend $500 on?
Legal notice.
That's about it.
We've spent 1,000 so far this year.
Better leave it alone.
Fairly low.
Yeah, and from what Dave says, it was in previous years, it was in another line of the budget, and now they've separated it out.
They didn't meet for 6 years. But I think they met 3 times already this year.
I think it was a snowstorm, they were meeting for one night when we had the snowstorm.
I don't think closely on the appeals.
Okay.
I
Okay,
know where it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Registrar of voters,
This is a one-off.
right, and it's also supported by a grant, right?
Some of it is 10-5 on a grant, but again, this is a one-off and now you're paying, this is one of those underfunded state mandates. I think I'm not speaking out of school when I say that we are not the only municipality suffering in this way. We have to pay our poll workers, our moderators, so on and so forth. And again, hopefully with the new state constitutional amendment, this will change by January 1 or thereabouts. But right now, at this point in time, this is the way it is for early voting.
On the early voting though, we have a grant that's covering the 19,000 or some of it.
Yes, but it's not gonna flow into next year, Amy.
Right.
Okay.
So that
It's
full
not gonna go
expense
into
of
next
the
year. You can't
19,000.
Defer that grant
No,
revenue.
Yes, you can use some of these expenses
yes.
out of that 10-5.
The revenue can't be shown.
Revenue's coming.
It's only because we're on a cash basis.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
thank-
So there's really no cutting there.
that's okay.
And again, not an unfunded state mandate, an underfunded state mandate.
but you said there was a grant coming in for that, it was. or-
We have
But
it.
we can't realize, we can't show it as revenue in next fiscal year.
Right.
Oh,
It's
okay.
in this fiscal year.
Okay.
I have a question about dues and training. Current year, we've got 3660 budgeted. We've spent only 500 of that.
Actually, I'm on board
20 or 20 of it, sorry. Next year we've got 2,500 budgeted.
Can we go down?
Looking at the past, we've spent on average about $1,000 a year. So is this a case of over budgeting?
I can explain that if you want.
Go ahead.
I can tell you, I'll start, Denise, and then you can finish up. How's that?
Sure.
We have a new Democratic registrar of voters. So again, there'll be training there. Go ahead, Denise.
The class is $1,600 to get certified to be a registrar. I didn't finish mine, but also didn't build a town for what I'd taken. Patty needs to take the $1,600. After that, you're certified and it's so many hours per year. So what you're seeing in the 2020, 2021, and a little more in 2022, even in 2023, yeah, is that certification class. But you don't have to do it again. I think, do you know if Pat's taking it this fiscal year, so you don't have to bill for it?
I haven't spoke with Patty yet regarding it.
Because if she takes it by June 30th, you can lower that by 1,500.
But I think we should.
I don't know the plan though. Not quite.
So I think we should.
The lower, the 2,500?
Right
Yeah.
now.
Is 2,500 a good approximation of the expenses that would be incurred?
1 year, get certified. After that, no.
Okay. Well, subject to you getting back to us with news that she's gonna take it this year and we're paying it out of this year's budget.
I'm not sure if the classes are, I would have to check to see if all those classes are offered, and I'm not sure.
She can-
Online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take me.
All right, that's
Can
something
we
I don't,
inquire about that?
we can inquire.
Okay, so pending that, I'm okay with what it is right now.
I don't have any questions about the next line item. Does anyone else? Insurance? No. And benefits is also something we can't really,
No.
Economic development, we don't have anything in there. Public health. We have a dog officer fund, which you've already reduced.
That includes cats too. We got, equal, yes.
ACO.
Mental health services, that really, that was evidently really needed. Evidently, according to our social service.
Right. You actually have two things in here, the Youth Service Bureau, which is the underfund every year. We've got a few services, and you have mental health services, both of which are needed in the area
Can we,
post COVID.
can we back up on something? And it was something that was pointed out and it was just a question. Year to date, with the, workman's comp, why is it so high year to date?
It's so high because it hasn't been split out.
Oh, I think you told me that. I'm sorry. You did tell me that, Michelle. Okay.
Split out, I just haven't.
Okay, you'll handle that. Okay. You did tell me that. I apologize for asking again.
Again, seeing we have a representative here from the Torrington Area Health District, I'd like to point out that they have not increased.
So back to mental health services, we're all on board with that increase because of the need. Is that correct? So that's an increase.
Speaking as an ex officio member here, yes,
Yeah.
I would tell you that mental health services in the northwest corner are probably we are underfunding most of them.
And we're spending everything we're budgeting.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, did everybody pay the
Here's
oil bill?
No, here's,
Oh, okay.
it feels great, Carol.
Yeah, sure it does. Well, it depends. Where did I lose my- Social services.
Yeah.
Social services.
Halfway.
Yeah.
Social services.
No, I don't think so.
Let's see, for social services, we have 54,000 budgeted, so that just went up a little bit. To 60,000 to 59,000. Okay.
And you've already reduced the line. a
What we
little
did
bit,
was
number of hours.
again, we gave the social services director a 3.5 raise, 3.5%. We had added 4 additional hours. We cut that to 2 additional hours.
I remember that.
Yeah, we did have that conversation.
And again, the gear transport, again, was up $147, but you had the earlier explanation of that.
So that's going, we need to add that here to the 147 plus 147.
Right.
So are we okay going to the daycare center? Or do people still want to look at social services? Just trying to move it along, not too rush. So.
No, I'm good with it.
Okay, let's move on to daycare.
I don't have any problem here myself, but anybody else?
My only question is about ground maintenance. Why do we pay a private company to do the ground maintenance? Do we not pay somebody to mow the lawn? That's not the town crew?
It's not the town crew, no. it's
Why?
contracted.
Just like.
Just like the school we contracted.
Oh, I was gonna get to that.
Okay.
I wanna know why we contract that, why, the town crew can't take care of mowing the lawn. That's,
Town crew has a sufficient amount of other things to do between the cemeteries and so forth. We don't charge, we have them mowing all the cemeteries. The places in town.
And it's more than just mowing the lawns, I think.
and is there going to be a major, I'm reading it correctly. Oh, no, we budgeted 9,000 last year too for building maintenance. I just wonder what had to be done to the building, What's been,
We also include the water.
oh,
I'm sorry.
The water testing.
yeah, there's water testing coming in.
I apologize, Cal.
You are forgiven.
They paid for the roof out of,
Reserve funds? Okay.
Yes.
It's still, it's an important, anybody else have other issues on daycare? When we go then to streetlights and general assistance?
The streetlights, did something break?
This, it's cost of doing business.
Oh, it's the electricity.
Is the electricity for the streetlights?
Yes.
Candles?
At least gas.
It's gonna line with their gas.
So general assistance?
Yeah.
So.
I'm assuming the emergency fund is if someone around here has an emergency or whatever,
This is another, if I may speak, yeah, I have to say, we utilize that every year, but
but it's not fuel, is it, or is it part of the? Just
there's a
cannabis?
number of things you can share with us, our social
I just wonder what
services
it is.
director.
Could be fuel, but it could be electricity, someone who's.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
It could be, resources for food,
Right.
necessities.
And I'm thinking that we received,
Sometimes it's medical, dental.
we just received a
What's that mean?
notice from Eversource to all the towns that starting May 1st, they will start shutting off electricity again for those who.
Nice.
Paid.
Yep.
There was a time during COVID and so forth that they didn't, they are starting again on May 1st.
So I don't have anything on this group.
I don't either,
We
really.
spend this money.
We spent this
Absolutely.
money.
It's just a curiosity that we haven't so far this year.
No, usually what happens is it's doled out through various ways that Teresa does in her budget, but this all catches up in the end.
What's the difference between the welfare disbursements and emergency fund? I mean, it's $500. I'm just curious as to why it couldn't be lumped into one, or does it come out of a different fund?
That's how I inherited it.
Oh, okay, okay, the way it's always been done. No, I just wanted, just curious about.
So are we on fund for municipal benefit activities,
Mhm.
grants and things?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're on to 10:23 now.
Yep, we have.
Yep. Everybody's
Been a
thinking,
great silence, fellow.
no, there's not a great silence. There's a daycare grant in there for $10,000. I appreciate that. We want to give everything, but every year we ask how many kids are in the daycare, how many kids from Falls Village are in the daycare. We ask for that information and we never get it. And I'm more than happy to do something like that.
Did we ask for that this year?
No, we were not.
Well, I always ask for it. So I mean, it's just, whether we don't know what, how many kids are from Falls Village, how many kids are from Salisbury. I think a daycare is great, but I don't want to pay for kids that are coming from all the other towns around if we only have a couple of kids from Falls Village. And I'm sorry if that sounds cold hearted. I don't mean to be, but I think we need to be able to get some answers to those questions.
Well, we have to ask them first.
Because it also affects the water test.
Right.
Based on how many kids are in that building and whether we're gonna be paying the kind of money we're paying for the water test. So all of this stuff matters.
Yeah, but we haven't asked them for that information yet. So if you want to formally get that information.
I would like
from
to
them-
formally get that
Okay, that's
information.
fine. Then I would advocate for supporting that daycare center for the following reasons. And that is that you have to support young families no matter where they're living in this area. If they come to Falls Village, if they're teaching at Housatonic, and this is a great place for them to have their kids, it's vital to have services for young families in this town. And if you don't, then you don't support young professionals coming into town, you don't support future homeowners or renters. You also have very low pool for people to volunteer for places, for boards like this, or for our fire department, or our ambulance service, or our Board of Education. So, and by giving them that grant, you also allow them to keep it somewhat affordable. It's always going to be expensive, but that grant is really important. It's not increased for so many years, and I'm sure their expenses have increased. And I'm sure it's still very expensive to get daycare centers. So I agree, it'd be great to have that information,
I'd
Carol,
like to have.
but
that
it would
information.
not change my position, I can tell you, to give them that 10,000.
But
I don't know how
I'm
other
looking
people
at the
feel.
number side of it
Yeah.
from the standpoint of a taxpayer. We're asking,
It's an
You talk
investment in
about-
our town.
it is an investment in your town, but you talk about bringing young people in the town and whatever. The young people can't live here to begin with because our taxes are so high. Okay, so this is where I'm looking at it, where I'm looking to make the cuts, because I see the fact that our population is getting older. Okay, and all of these things make a difference, and I think that we have to consider the taxpayer. I'm not anti-children, I'm not anti-daycare. I don't want that to come back that way. I just think I would like to look at this one further, because I think that that's costing us a lot. We need to know the numbers so we can determine the water testing as well, because that's based on numbers. We don't have enough information. Whatever the Board of Finance does, I just want my opinion on the table as to how I feel about that. And that's it.
I would just add that everyone's aware of Governor Lamont's plan for livability in the state of Connecticut. And one of the things he talks about, aside from housing, is daycare. And each town providing daycare. And I would just add that.
That's take care for the individual town or for?
They just say, all
in
he's
general.
talking is daycare in general.
Right now, it is
Okay, because it's one of
housing
those
is a real issue, and young people's ability to purchase and buy houses in this town or any other town around, and I have a real concern about that, bringing young people in and affordability.
And again, the governor talks about both parents working.
Okay, so any other thoughts on that line item?
I'd just like to say, both my boys, one's 24 and one's 30. They both went to
Yep.
daycare at that facility.
My kids met your kids.
This house before you.
Well, the point I was trying to get is that there were kids there from Canaan, there were kids there from Cornwall, there were kids there from Salisbury. And they became lifelong friends, and they still are good friends. So it does pay to mingle.
And their parents.
And I understand that, and I agree with that, that's terrific, but we're here about numbers.
Okay.
We're here about numbers.
I know
Yeah, but
that.
we're also hearing about investing in our town's future. It's not just about the bottom line for this year. It's about making sure we invest in the future.
Well, the
Well,
other
we could
thing,
beat this subject to death. I made my point of how I feel. I also look at the fact that young people can't afford to buy here, period.
okay, the other thing I was gonna
You know.
say before I got cut off. Maybe, maybe. People who live in town and who have some kids there can get some sort of a break, either, a little bit of a tax break or.
Homesteading Act.
Or. Well, we do, if we do support it, big time in this town with this $10,000 grant. Either that or increase out of town. tuition.
There's no one here from the daycare center.
No.
Anyone from the board of the daycare center?
No, do not know what I'm looking at right now.
I think
I'm
since
sure
it
I'll be
hasn't
quoted in the
changed in
paper.
10 years, we'll just leave it as is until we get more information.
Yeah, it is, I have to agree with Carol on the point, though, that it's an investment in the town, the neighboring towns, the region, but it is relevant to know how much of the facility is being used by our people, because we're asking our taxpayers to pay for it.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
It's not a nice.
No.
We get the information.
So you want that in the minutes?
We get the information.
Please.
Number of kids
And what tells them.
And what towns are, well,
and what towns?
what the demographics. The demographics, yeah, terrific. Nice word. Thank you. What is what's the proposed increase for I'm just asking for the Historical Society?
There is no increase.
Is there? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, yes, it's the same.
Matter of fact, the only two increases that you'll see in this line are for the Falls Village Children's Theater and the DM Hunt Library. That's how we constructed it, Carol.
What's the job program, the summer job program thing? Is that,
Northwest Connecticut Summer Job Program, that's actually being regionally now, Housatonic Youth Service Bureau is going to be here.
just to try summer employment for kids, I guess?
Yep, so everyone wants to tackle the elephant in the room.
We're not there yet, are we?
We're in that section.
Okay, so we gotta talk about the library.
Yeah.
Who'd like to go first?
Mr. Lincoln? Well, one of us has to go first. I'll say this. I agree with the sentiment that was expressed by numerous people before the meeting, that it's an important community asset. I doubt that anybody seriously disagrees with that. It's a big increase that they asked. They asked for about 40%, and the selectmen pared that down to about a 30% increase. So in better times, I would have no hesitation to say yes. The question for me is whether it's fair to have an increase of that proportionality, 30%, when we're asking other people to tighten their belt. That's what it boils down to for me. It's not a belief that you don't put the money to good use at all, but it's a question of fairness. So the increase is from the line again, 15,000. We're at 52 or something like that. So it's 15,000. Well, I'll say a couple more things. You've done a very good job on the money that you have. You can survive on the amount of support you have. It would be great if you had some more. But the library is not going to close down if we don't increase the contribution. You may have to pair services, I don't know. But to me, a 30% raise in this environment is more than fair, I think. I mean, I think it violates fairness. So I'm in favor of some reduction of the increase, not a. I don't want to go back to the current level of funding, 2,500, whatever it is, but 30% seems like a lot. Now I'm looking at the whole line for public benefits, and rough calculation is that the increase from the current budget to the proposed budget is 23%. That's for everything, lunch, daycare, BB Hill, etc. So everything's going up by 22%. Now, obviously, if the library share came down, the 22% would come down. But a 20% increase would be about a $10,000 addition instead of 15. I feel comfortable with that, much as I appreciate the library, because to repeat ad nauseum, to me, it's a matter of fairness. So that's what I'm going to propose.
What was your number again, please?
John, I'll take the counterpoint. I think you moved goalposts. You moved goal line. At the beginning of this meeting, you said we were looking for instances over budgeting. This is not an instance of over budgeting. Everybody knows exactly where every single dollar of this will go. You also said you were looking for instances where we don't get sufficient value for the money. I think everybody here agrees they're going to get more than sufficient value for this money.
Right.
And I think we should apply the same standards to this line item that we've applied to all the other line items. And I believe we should leave the select.
You left out one important point of the things that I had my eye on. Well, one was over budgeting. And another was a large increase. And I'm not doubting that the money will be put to good use. It's not over budgeted, but it is a large increase at a time when we're asking everybody else to cut. And that's the only reason that I view it as a fairness. So I didn't move the goalposts, you left out an important factor there.
One of the things that was mentioned in a previous meeting, I won't say who, I can't remember, was the ratio of out-of-town visitors to town visitors. I'm looking at the data that's provided by, I think it was Roxanne, about the number of visits, which is 10,344, which seems really high.
Total visits,
Visits,
including town people and everything else.
because I don't know the breakdown of that number, right?
Right.
Because we don't have the number of what the percentage is between.
Mhm.
To getting to your point about the daycare, seems to me to fall somewhat in the same vein, which is how many services are provided to in-town people versus out-of-town people. I think that's a fair question to ask. In tracking the number of visits, 10,344, that's an exact number. And I'm not sure how they're tracking. I mean, nobody's sitting there at the door with a clicker when I walk through the door, so I'm not sure how that number is tracked.
I'm happy to tell you.
Would love to know.
No, that's a funny.
2 weeks of the year, we do actually take tallies of everyone who walks, and then we extrapolate that number for the year.
It's not an exact science, but
Yeah.
but fair. So I look at it as, like John said, I'm looking at large increases and what that means for the town. So from my perspective, it's, I'm curious to know where we can land. I don't know if 15,000 is a fair jump when, again, we don't know how much we're gonna stick on the taxpayers here, so.
So I just want to point out another thing along the lines of what I said before. It's not the bottom line, of course. But the library, a daycare center, these are businesses, they're nonprofits. They are generating economic activity in the town. We don't have a lot of businesses to go to, but I can tell you, it would not be a great thing to reduce the traffic in this town by saying, hey, library, you serve many more people than Falls Village, that kind of thing. So the library is one of the largest economic drivers into our town, as far as people who spend money here at the cafe or at the salon or wherever it is. I don't know. We don't have a lot of places, the gas station, and things like that. There are other places that do as well. It's just, if we want to have any kind of economic activity, we'd be cutting off our nose to spite our faces If we are just looking at serving, having our nonprofits only serve Paul's Village.
So another a couple points, and again, I'm with John. I don't feel like the library is a place we need to shut down. I'm not about that. I think the library is a great place for many reasons, whether it's, kids reading time or people being able to, get out and use the internet there. And I'm a fan of all of that. We're looking at the expense here that, how much we're trying to increase it. One of the things that is also of interest to me, and this could be maybe my limited knowledge or just being unaware, is how many of these events they put on that serve all income levels in the town as well. Because there are a number of events that don't feel that really serve all the income levels of this town. And I do believe that it was recent years where they moved from being open 4 days a week to 5 days a week. Is that correct?
This year in September.
So their operating expenses went up because they opened up an extra day. So I'm not, again, these are just all opportunities or thoughts to ponder when we consider that, the number we want to be at.
Well, let me just respond briefly to a couple things that you said. I'm not troubled at all by the fact that people from out of town use it. It's here for us, and if other people want to use it, fine as well. So I wouldn't reduce the budget for them because of that. I doubt that it's an economic driver. I can't agree with that. It's just what it is. It's a library. We all love it and appreciate it. And we want to give it the support it needs, but we are in a pretty tight financial situation, and it's just a question of whether we can fairly say to taxpayers that we're going to put a 30% increase in the library, but nobody else is going to get anything close to that. That's the question for me. Right. The economics, I'm not troubled by. I'm sure they use the money very well, and they do great things for the town.
What was the number that you had quoted earlier? I'm sorry.
At the 20% raise, so instead of 15, 10. Which I think would probably still make the library the recipient of the biggest percentage increase across most, if not all, the budget.
Well, why don't we just look at that?
Look at what?
Look at that and just, and we haven't finished all our lists. We could look at that as a decrease and see at the end. I mean, we're just going through this.
It probably makes sense to leave that for the last.
Okay.
So you want me to leave it empty or put in? Just leave it empty, come back to it. Yeah, right, no?
So we're gonna come back to.
We're gonna.
So I'll come back to it.
So we're on,
Conservation Commission?
We go back to one more thing? Sorry, the children's theater, what is the increase? Do we know what they're gonna use the increase for?
We had a representative here. A resident expert.
Yeah, we last year, through strategic planning process that we underwent, that was funded by the Foundation for Community Health, determined that we would hire a professional to increase our programming, increase our reach, as well as to reboot the children's theater model, which you might have noticed, has been successfully renewed post-COVID. And so that increase partially covers that staff position. We've now just had building staff position. She's able to offer 5 or 6 programs for all ages.
Oh, great, thank you.
can we go to general public safety?
Before we go anywhere, I'd like to just ask a question. It's 8 o'clock. We've gone through 4 of the 8 pages. Are we gonna try to finish this tonight, or are we gonna have to meet again?
I think we should take a stab at the whole thing. And if we feel like there was further discussion on points, we can reconvene and just drill it into those specific.
I think we have to do that, but you're gonna eventually get punchy,
I know.
you know?
Agreed.
Eventually you get to the point where you're looking at them and say, oh, the hell of it, you know, I don't wanna be that way, I wanna be.
There's
So-
another reason though, is that the clock is ticking,
Yeah,
and
we
I
have to-
know we really have to come to some decision soon so that there's adequate time to have the appropriate hearing and
Well,
I'm willing to stay.
right,
Right, but
Okay.
you have time for that.
Let's do our
too.
best.
all right,
So inland wetlands,
general public safety.
So, fire marshal is a lot higher than normal. Is there, you know, are we budgeting that higher for any particular reason?
Well, the high school is in Falls Village.
Mhm.
And that will have to be checked by the fire marshal.
But it doesn't. it
we
always
should be
has to
split up, why is it just our responsibility?
Falls Village carries that.
But does
That's
it, don't we have
that's the same.
to do that?
Why do we carry it?
We always have to do it, but what I'm saying is, what's going on is his rates have gone up a little bit, okay? Plus the fact that right over there, or right over here, sits the plans that are for the high school renovation. Okay, they have to be checked by our building inspector vis-a-vis, again, the fire inspector.
Yeah, it's the renovation.
Fire marshal would be looking here.
Are there fees that county fees in for?
Yeah,
the
why are we
building
absorbing
inspector as
that?
Part of the school.
No, well, yes, building inspector, but not
Not
fire.
fire.
So we shouldn't have to pay that, this is.
So it's because of the renovation. You're
Yes.
anticipating more
Yeah,
need for the
yeah, I
fire
didn't-
purchase.
But,
Right.
but if we're gonna have, why would we have these shoulders? There isn't,
Because building is in our town.
yeah, but there's no coverage within the budget from,
Do we not
we're not gonna get reimbursed.
do we benefit unusually for having the school in our town?
Well, it's under the pilot program, that's about it.
The,
Yes,
building permit fees will also come.
right.
But not the fire marshal, right?
Right.
But there is quite an
It's an increase, hefty increase.
New renovation of the.
But isn't that covered under the building? Be covered under the
why
building.
would the fire marshal's expense go up?
$1,000.
Right.
I'm not pushing the fire marshal, it's the.
Kristen, I thought you were.
Yeah, no.
Oh, you're on full spec.
Maybe there was some confusion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Back up.
I apologize.
Fire marshal.
Another fire marshal.
It's been,
Yeah,
and the building inspector went down a
I
lot.
have the facts.
Okay, but you anticipate us spending as much as 6,000 this year for fire marshal?
yes.
Okay. Since we're not there.
I don't understand that one, but we can.
So we're gonna
So
spend more.
building
We can come
inspector.
back to that one.
Before we leave the fire marshal.
Yeah.
Dave, why do we, so we've only spent on average over the last several years,
Don't average, John. Don't average in public safety, okay? Coming from a public safety background, I will tell you, don't try to
so
average.
tell me what's different about this year from the prior years.
He has more inspections to do.
What,
okay?
which one are we on?
Hold on.
It's on fire marshal, okay.
You know, I would refer to some of our people within the fire service here that are out in the audience who will tell you that there's been much more of him being active. We have one fire marshal in the area. We share one, as you know, Stan McMillan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's been fire marshal for years. Okay, and again, we will probably spend that much money. If we don't spend that much money, again, we must deal with specifics. We can't deal with averages for something like
Yeah,
that.
what I'm asking is, what is specific about this year that justifies this large?
One of the
increase?
things that he'll be looking at as a fire marshal is the Housatonic Valley Regional High
Yeah,
School.
but we're talking about this fiscal year, not next.
There's no increase. There's no increase.
Yeah, there's no increase.
No,
But-
It was
And
6,000.
we'll spend that money, is what I'm trying to say.
well, I
haven't spent it.
understand there's no increase from this year, but
There's no increase from 22 to 23 or 6.
But
Right, he's been flat.
But if you look at the monies we've spent over the years, it's nowhere near that. So what I'm asking is, what's happened in the last year or two that makes you think that we're gonna spend close to?
Again,
twice as
John, if there's an arson fire here, the first one on the scene before the state fire marshal is our local fire marshal. So again, what I would say is,
But that has been always.
not trying to defend it beyond what you're asking.
Right.
But public safety, you never average. Public safety, you're trying to be specific and if there's a little bit of contingency in there, I hope to God we don't have any fatal fires here. I hope that we don't have any fires that need to be investigated by the fire marshal. But on my level, and I'm not defending the fire marshal, on my level, leave it what it has been.
Okay, that's you, but now I'm asking you this question. Did we
Right.
budget $6,000 every year in and year out?
We have over the past several years.
We have, this is, his mileage is really.
Right.
This is the line item for the, not just salaries, so if the high school has a project going on, we're gonna get more mileage for him coming. Also, if he wants to take more classes.
Right. And as you realize, he has to remain certified, right, through the Bureau of State Fire Marshal, the SFM.
But I would assume that that would be split amongst the other towns. That's, yeah.
But we still have to pay for it.
No, I'm not saying that, but it's not a flat,
Right.
you know, we're not footing the whole bill for that, but.
And again, John, I'm sorry if I came across, it's just one of those things. We hope you know what? Do you have a spare tire in your car?
No, actually, I don't. So it's destroying your argument.
Oh, okay. Do you have something to blow up that? I know you have a Volvo. We're always talking about a contingency here.
Yeah. And
We
this
hope
one
we
you
never
put-
have to use him. But I think we're better off following what we have for the past several years.
Even though we haven't for many years, spent more, over 4,000.
Right.
Well, that's where I think
I would, just speaking as, I have no vote in this. But I'm sorry.
If you have, permits for
Yeah.
wood stove, things like that.
Oh, yeah. He has to do that, and if someone does firework.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Burning permits.
Burning permits. Also.
Have to come out with-
It seems that, in me. I respect your opinion.
I know.
It doesn't seem that why this what if situation. Maybe because it's public safety is why you're saying this category is you're saying this category is very different than all the other categories.
I think it is when you're talking about public safety.
Okay, thank you. Look, I just wanted to define that. And so.
And
In your
be
position.
perfectly transparent, public safety's been my
I
life.
know. That's why I respect your opinion here. I just had to ask that question.
Come to us, out.
What are we on now? So fire marshal?
I think Carl, you just better leaving it the way it is, you know.
And now we're built, and then for building inspector,
I'd like to know why that jumped so high. Because this 157 was probably for a lot of renovating during COVID. Unless he's getting a substantial raise, I don't know why that budget's gone up that much.
Is that a salary? Or is it per? Hourly.
So the more houses he goes out, the more
Right.
property.
We have more building going up?
well, the high school is gonna be a big part of that inspection. Next year's renovation for the high school will be, the building inspector will be very busy.
But again, we can't pass that cost on to the project? I can't believe it.
Are we gonna be getting?
I don't understand why we would have to.
Well, we get the revenue from those building
Right.
permits
But-
too.
Yeah, we'll begin.
Wouldn't the
Right.
cost
Is
be
there an
buried
increase in
the-
that revenue line?
I don't know, I don't know the.
Well,
building
it just, that's a
project.
huge, that's a huge jump.
Yeah. I would just.
Building permits, we
I would
aren't,
expect it includes it.
we are, we aren't, scheduled, with Michelle's projections to see an increase in building permit revenue though.
No, there wouldn't, there's,
Yes, we are.
No,
Well,
it
not,
goes
yes,
from
not
twenty
that budget,
thousand
but
to
over the
20,000.
current, yeah.
20,000 to 20,000, there's no increase, so if we're increasing the activity of the building inspector, one would think that we would see some increase in building permit fees. It's not a lot, either way, but.
No, $8,000.
Well, year to date is 99.
Right, right.
We've only spent half
Okay,
the
we're gonna
budget
get-
and the year was. Really should end it.
I
I
think
haven't
that-
heard a persuasive reason for why it's. why
I
the
think it
budget
can be
went
cut
up.
considerably. I think it's way over.
It definitely would leave some increase in there because of the high school project. And I would suggest, some increase in the revenue too.
Well, they're not asking for an increase. They're asking for the same thing that was budgeted this year. But if you look at this year, the year is close to over and we've spent about half of the budget.
Right.
And if you look in prior years, we spent on average a little bit more than this year, but not a lot. We've never gotten close to a $20,000 expenditure.
So if we went down to 15, how do you feel?
Okay.
And I would suggest that we consider looking at the revenue line. I mean, I don't know.
So -5 for the building?
Yes, 15, take it to 15.
Move again.
I think we're overpaying our constable. Take that line out of there.
I know.
I mean, come on.
We still have to maintain.
Well, they did have to buy their badges this year, didn't they? Oh, okay, right.
So, again, this is.
Oh, did they get, oh, yeah, okay, vest as well.
Statutorily, they can't have badges, as you know.
No, I didn't know that, but.
There you do.
All right, they got.
Those vests, yeah. They get vests.
You can't even have a little thing that says constable on it?
They can have a little thing that says constable, but by state statute, they
Well,
can't.
that's not considered a badge. Oh.
So
Or a shield.
this line item is 9369. Is there wiggle room there, or do we leave it because it's public safety?
Where?
9369.
We're gonna see.
Oh,
Emergency.
193.
Is
Remember
that a
193.
contract payment? What is? What are we?
Yeah.
It's
No, the 19.
193, okay. I was still hung up. There's the emergency services coordinator right there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I was a little confused.
Yeah. So this year you anticipate that we're gonna spend around 9,000, Michelle, even though in other years we've not spent even 7, right?
So that is my salary.
Yes,
And the $2,500 from the contingency performance line that I was getting full was moved last year into the one line.
Okay, the contingency line.
So,
Aha, thanks.
Oh,
Okay,
So
so
we're-
that was moved up into the white line.
So it's combined.
It's, yes.
Thank you.
so we're only giving you $1 out of that one.
Yeah.
Let's play his
still,
head.
still,
If you want me to explain through what I do.
Nope.
That's all COVID and everything else,
No,
right? Yeah.
no, we thank you. 7, 8. So it's not that big of a.
So what are we increasing it?
It's
Yeah,
going
I
from
can't do
8
the
to
math in my head.
9,369.
It's going up very little.
Yeah, okay.
It is.
3.5.
That's right.
All right.
Thanks for explaining that. So, I don't see anything else.
What's the hepatitis vaccine?
It has to be offered for all of our, Andrea, I would ask you while you're over there, hepatitis vaccine is for the,
Be offered to all
Oh.
town employees, but that includes your emergency services volunteers, fire name that.
How often do you only get it once, right?
You have to have the series,
Oh, okay.
so every
that's
time
right.
we get a new volunteer,
Mm-hmm.
because the town crew hasn't really changed, but every time we get a new volunteer, we have to offer them the hepatitis vaccine series.
Okay.
thank you, Andrea. I knew you'd know the answer right off.
I knew she'd know it too.
So take us to 1028.
Yeah. These already got a 15% haircut, right?
Yes.
I would propose that, we reconsider the 15% haircut on the ambulance reserve, since that is due up to be replaced very soon. we don't want to be down that ambulance. So,
No.
Can I just ask a question? It's not a criticism. Okay, 'cause I always, well, I'm gun shy from being on the Board of Education years ago, when every time I asked a question, they thought I was against something, so. Why do you replace the ambulance? Is it statutorily you do that, or?
State recommends and strongly urges us to replace our ambulance every 10 years.
Okay,
Falls Village has not complied with that requirement because ours has low mileage, right?
right.
So we try to make our ambulance last a little bit longer
Mhm.
if we can. Our current ambulance is 2013, right? And I will just say that we were gifted some money, and we are holding that gift of money to put towards our next ambulance. We're not spending it, until we're ready to spec out our next ambulance. So that, but we are now at 11 years. So we will be probably looking in the next 2 to 3 years to really start to spec out the ambulance. We are gonna be, I will say, we talked to vendors when we went to the conference this year. It is a 2.5 to 3 year
Wait time?
in the time that we spec out our ambulance. And the costs are, like, we bought our last ambulance for $100,000. We are looking at no less than $250,000.
Litchfield just purchased an ambulance that was closer to 325.
Right, expensive.
So I have another question. Again, I'm asking because I don't know what the rules and the laws are. But the fire company has a bank account or has an account with money in it.
Yeah.
Is that something that we as a Board of Finance are privy to? That we could get? I mean, is that town information? I don't know. I have no idea how that works.
Well, we're not a public.
That's what I mean. I don't know how it works.
So, and a lot of our monies that we have are earmarked, so, for specific things, like there's money that's specific to the building fund, so that money would only be used for building purposes, to update or fix something in the building, or we have money that's specific to a truck fund. So that money would be specific to that. We have another fund that's the car show fund, which is, we have, an agreement or a relationship with, Jacobs. And so that money, we don't use that money for operating. We just continue, if there was something we really needed to, we could use it, but we continue to roll that money over so we can continue to support the car show here in
But they're
town.
technically not public funds. So technically you could tell us, no, you can't see this. I mean, if,
We could.
Yeah.
Reason to do that, but you
Okay.
can find that all the money is very much earmarked for very specific things.
Yeah, you do your own fundraising and the town's role is to equip and support your operations.
We get some money in the fire commission.
Right.
And just so everyone knows, I am the president of the fire company, so I'm speaking in that capacity right now. So we do get fire commission funds and that money we spend for education.
Question is what? Whose money is that?
That comes from this budget, in your budget. So it'll be, it's gonna be like electricity or fuel, different things like that, overhead. It also includes, we get so much turnout gear each year from that equipment. We get our physicals, and I will tell you, we didn't increase our budget, but our physical costs just went way up. Because the vendor we were using is no longer providing it. And so we, but we are gonna try to absorb that through our own fundraising, some of that excess that because it's gonna be twice as much money as expected. So
It's a service that we don't spend, it's a volunteers we're supporting too. It's not,
right.
And
But if you had to pay, I will tell you right now, for a BLS contract, which is the level of service our ambulance provides, the current contract rate is $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so just know that
The value.
we have 6 or 7 of us still responding to calls, and it's saving this town $1 million a year.
Yeah.
so just,
which is something that I, with budgeting, knowing that we'd have to have a paid fire company. Ambulance fund, no, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's a big issue.
so
Money, yeah.
Professional EMS, we're doing.
Here.
That's what we are, that's what our fees are coming in at about.
So just as a point, an additional point is that in the reserve capital accounts, we have $39,000 set aside for the ambulance, which we heard is not going to be nearly enough, obviously. Obviously, the Falls Village Fire Department is going to be emptying and whatever they can to augment that. Additionally, people have to remember that medical calls are now are the greater calls that we have, right? 2/3 to 3/4 of our calls in our fire department are medical calls. The ambulance is a crucial apparatus. So I'm not suggesting any other changes except for keeping the ambulance reserve value at the same as what it was
At
last year.
1,500, at 15,000.
Not trimming it 50.
One question for Andrew. The fees that you charge for the ambulance for each call, I would assume some of that gets put away for such a
Yeah,
thing.
we use that to buy, equipment that we use, like, you know, if we use oxygen masks or bandaging supplies, collars. The stretcher, we did just upgrade our stretcher, which really protects us as
Mhm.
far as, back injuries, things like that, because all the things I did.
Mhm.
We also purchased a Lucas device this last year, which is a device that does compressions, because the data shows that when you are moving along the road and you're trying to do compressions,
You're losing
you're not actually doing them as well as you need to potentially save someone's life. And with the Lucas device, they're consistent, they're regular, and we've seen much our percentage of saves has increased by using this equipment.
Okay.
Estimate on the stretcher, how much did you spend?
Oh, it's like over $40,000. Yeah.
So Tom is suggesting that we increase that line item to by 2250.
I'm suggesting we leave it at what it was before, 15% cut.
Where am I?
That's all.
So it would be 15,000 instead of 12,750.
Right.
Correct. I'm okay.
Me too.
Seeing as I use,
2,500?
yeah. 2250.
2250. Thanks.
You're welcome. What are we doing now? What are we moving it up to?
2250 for the ambulance reserve, bringing it back up to the 20.
Bringing it back up to the
15.
15,000, right,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm writing my numbers down differently than everybody else's, so my brain doesn't work that way.
All right, up to 25,599. Do we want to discuss anything else on the capital reserves, the recurring capital accounts?
If I may say something about capital reserves, over 30 years ago, we would establish these capital reserves. And the reason why we established these capital reserves is so we wouldn't have those big bounces in the mill rate. At least we have a little bit of money in the reserve. So even to trim this back 15%, I think in the future, we would be looking to try to get that back somehow.
I think, what we're trying to do here is take 1 to 2 years and right the ship. I think once we do that, then it's obviously
Correct, but just wanted to remind the Board of Finance here that that's why it was set up over 30 years.
I didn't like the reduction across the board on this at all, but I can understand what we're trying to achieve, so.
Now we're on Main Street. We're okay with Main Street. I don't know if you can really do anything.
I don't think you can really do much with that. I mean, it's,
You want to go to Railroad Street then?
which is Railroad Street.
Railroad fee, we hopefully will be getting there.
You said that last year too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, any word on that, on what's going on with that?
Matter of fact, I'm waiting for Matt Kiefer.
Ouch.
Now we're on Fire Commissions.
2001.
So we're pretty much keeping the line except for a few items like utilities.
I just want to know the electric bill. I mean, is that just It's a lot.
You-
It is, no, I know, I,
And you know, shutdowns, the place is freezing.
go into the bathroom here and you'll get freezing.
We try to keep it down.
Yeah, no, so that's what it is.
If
Yeah.
I may, that all that equipment has to stay plugged
Does it?
in.
Yes, that's right too, that, yeah.
Yeah, 24/7.
Right.
Yeah, no, I just,
Will say the community has been using it.
yeah, no, I saw that number and it's like,
Big space.
that's pretty fixed.
And unless somebody else disagrees, I don't see any place you can change this number.
I just have
Yeah.
a question. We've only spent half our budget for this year, so. So what's
So the fire trucks are just going for their inspection to be paid out before June 30th. The new equipment budget will also be spent. We try to hold it closer to the end of the fiscal year in case something breaks to use that money. Before buying new gear and things like that. Like Andrea said, the physicals, they're scheduled for June. Yes.
You're expecting to spend that budget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'll spend it on some, but we will put that difference up in our,
Out of your account.
out of our own accounts. Yep.
And we have 5 new members.
So we hired
Half
for-
outfit down. Yeah, half outfit.
A lot younger than me.
You beat the suit.
That's right.
So now we're on Department of Public Works, which has gone up hardly at all.
The only place where they went up is in, 2.5% raise, and of course that carries over to the overtime.
And generally, let's see, estimated.
What would be, I'm just curious, subcontracting, general subcontracting, is that,
They just chip seal. They had a subcontractor.
oh,
do that.
okay, that's
They
all
didn't do
right,
that themselves.
all right, okay. I didn't know if that came under something else.
It doesn't look like town garages. are really there much. Going too fast, maybe.
My garage again, it's electricity and heat.
Yeah.
And telephone.
And you're-
So now we're on Recreation Commission, and I'm not, correct you?
Yeah.
So you have Sally's England, oh, that's the pool. Sally's,
Lifeguards.
That include lifeguards, yeah,
Guard.
yeah,
okay, sorry, that's the
yeah.
Again, lifeguards are at a premium.
one.
I just want to add in the paper today, yeah, Lakeville
We-
Journal for,
Even.
We're not even close.
Yeah, we're not close.
Close.
so, but somebody was advertising for them.
No, hopefully we are soon.
Okay, pool chemicals, that's gone up
Chlorine.
considerable. Well, we know there was a time when we had chlorine, we couldn't get chlorines.
Mhm.
All right, because we had difficulty with it too, with our own, but I mean, is that still an issue? And
Not
where,
paying it or.
yeah,
Is
or
it-
getting our
is it
supplies,
chemical
where
Getting
we're getting our
supplies,
supplies
we're
from.
working With Save All right now, and it's doing pretty good according to Tim. I only wish Tim was here to talk a little bit about.
But the price
Fine.
did not come
The
down.
price has not.
Never comes down.
So,
Why would they do
Come
that?
down price wise.
Okay, so we, it sits right around the level it was in 22, 23.
And then there was, the only question I had was about the pump, the electric pool pump. Does that get changed every year? Does it, I mean, what is that?
There's a magician called Teddy Downs who keeps
Who's
it
who's been
running.
maintaining that? We also have a pool reserve, if you saw that.
No, I'm just asking. I mean, it's $5,500 for an electric. pool pump.
electric for
Yeah.
But that,
It's the electric.
it should say electric.
Right.
Oh, okay, yes,
Yeah.
yes, you're right. Got it. Thank you. That's why you're here. Thank you very much.
I go, what?
God, so far you've given me that one and demographics. This is a good meeting, okay? All right, that makes sense.
A cut to the winter programs.
Yes, I
And
see, we see that.
That's gonna be,
That winter
Just the bus,
program
it's just the
was,
bus.
that winter program was
E-class.
E Club. And that was primarily for,
Well, we had proposed an increase. I just want to say that I think there might be an accounting mistake here. 2021, 2022. We didn't expand. So that's on me. I need to follow up with.
Under what? What are you talking about?
The
Winter program?
did not spend $5,678 on winter program.
Oh,
That is some that was reimbursed with, from the.
Oh, SWASA?
For the program.
No, I mean, that was a much lower number. The town, Swassa, we applied to, the Salisbury Sports Association every year to get, funding to cover some scholarship. They cover the bulk of that, so that's just something.
budget. We don't have.
No.
Yeah, we don't live in any of them.
I'm sorry,
Wait,
for 20
you're not hanging with the right people.
Column E,
expenditure,
Column E.
yeah, column.
Nobody has.
column E, 293.
No, you don't have one of these big fancy ones, the yellow ones that we got. No. No.
Okay, anyways, well, so the proposed increase of $3,000 was for busing, which we always had a bus that brought the kids from the school to the mountain until COVID, and we stopped it. We thought we had a really good system with carpooling and parents driving. Last year, there was kind of a bit of an upturn, and a lot of people really said it became difficult. They really needed the busing to come back because people couldn't participate anymore. Because parents have to leave work early to be able to get their kids there. So that was the reason for the proposed increase.
The $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm talking about winter programs.
Yeah, winter programs, yeah.
Programs line 293 is being proposed at $1,000.
Even though you didn't spend any, yeah, it is.
Selectmen cut it though.
Oh, we did.
But the board of selectmen trimmed it to without.
Right, it was
Yeah.
1686.
Right, and they cut it to.
No, that's the average.
No.
It's not, that's the average.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was 1686.
It was 1686 budget.
No.
No,
This
that's
is
average.
after the selectmen cut. Ted,
Before the selectmen.
It was
brought it down to
18.
1,000, we had it at 3.
Oh.
Correct.
No, I'm
But
looking here.
we were, what's that number?
Yes, transportation, we had a note for transportation.
Yes.
That was an assumption based on what we.
Oh, before they gave it to us.
Yes.
Okay, before they gave it to us. All right, right. Got it.
That number needed to be more refined when we get those quotes.
Got it. So we're leaving it at $1,000.
Yep.
Right, that's what we're saying, okay. And we know the electric pool pump.
3 is right, Ted. You had originally had.
Yeah, pay that.
Okay,
Ground maintenance is a lot more. It's anticipated to be 1,500.
somebody's raising his
this year.
hand. You have the answer to ground maintenance?
I do.
Okay,
And relying on volunteer support from local landscaping companies to maintain our playground area. And we had hoped that at some point we could actually turn that into doing right by the business that's been supported for 20 years and make a film from service that was in the city. So that was grounds maintenance as well as pest control in the bathtubs.
Is that wood chips also, Ted?
And wood chips, in the playground area.
Okay.
Because we are working with fairground.
Got it.
Right.
and I got my answer to the insurance question already. Right, Michelle? And you're gonna move it back there someday.
Okay, so, or is anybody, I don't have any problems with the rec commission right now. Does anybody else?
No.
Want to make any proposals? Can we go to waste management?
This doesn't increase in salary.
The only,
It's not that much.
yeah, nothing here.
No, it's not that much.
The only thing that, as I had before, Mr. Chairman, told you when we get to the tipping fees, we know there will be an increase in the tipping fees. And I don't.
What's the
just
TF
have to have it,
operations
But
coordinator?
we're just budgeting for what
Transportation.
we have now.
Okay.
Coordinator.
Compost, we're.
But it's for transport, it's for
Transfer station.
transportation operations.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the coordinator. They do all the coordination.
Anything else?
What's the difference between that and
the coordinator?
Now it is.
Now.
Was.
what's that? Okay, the landfill attendant and the
Coordinator, is same person.
same person.
Same person now, yeah.
All right, okay.
Any suggestions on waste management?
Or should we have enough for to cover
No,
all the,
Bill's not good.
all the rising costs there?
Well, to,
I'm gonna be honest with you, Tom, right now, and I just said this to Amy. We know that the tipping fees are gonna come up. We'll probably have to come back to you. The only real positive that we have right now that is that we're under budget for our tipping fees. It looks like we're gonna be all right this year. We know with the dissolution of Mira, we're going to, the fees will more than likely go up. There's a question of who will be, taking our trash. So again, it's a little bit up in the air. We can only budget on what we've had in the past. But I do see myself coming to you
So what,
in the future.
when you say we're under budget for tipping fees and you anticipate we're gonna be under budget,
No, for the rest of this year.
Yes, I know.
For the rest of this year.
so so your anticipated expenditures might not be as high as 170.
No.
They might be as,
160.
oh, so it might be $10,000.
Might be 10,000, it might be 165.
Okay, so we might have a little more money in the general fund. Okay.
so how often do they test the well there? I'm curious.
Wow. Again, I wish I had Tim here, but I believe it's by statute, they have to test it every so often.
I think it's supposed to be quarterly.
Where do they test this? I guess my
They
question.
test the land, so several wells on the property.
On the property. Oh, okay.
So
Are they used? I'm sorry, this sounds like a silly question.
It's in the large, for the pool house.
Oh, it's a full house. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
And it's just general testing.
Okay, to know what's in it.
Buying things. More rents to do. It's not going.
Yeah.
Dave, what do you want to do right now? There's lots of chatter.
I'm sorry.
Sure, what do you want to do?
No, I think we're at the end.
Ben, say something.
We're at the end.
Okay.
Denise, what do we have
Sorry.
right now?
Okay, 25,599.
Say it again, Denise.
25,599,
And we had,
$25,000, not counting a cut library.
not counting library.
Okay.
and a proposed cut of
25,599.
Yes.
25,599.
So to summarize, we've cut 25. 17 was cut before, so of the total municipal budget, the total cuts are 42.
So we were
So 100 we sought, we've achieved $40,000 or $42,000. And if you look at the very last page 9 of this
Yep.
summary, that would bring the proposed expenditures, which are now listed at 2,186,000. That's gonna come down by,
Do we have half a debt service in there?
we're just looking at expenditures now.
Okay.
That would come down to about 2,160. 20.
161,302.
Yeah, so.
2,
round
1.
numbers, 2,160.
Okay.
161,302.
6, 2, 1, 6, 1.
So. If you look at the amended budget for this year. It's about. It's 4 columns over, it's about 2.1 million. So, the budget. If we stopped right here, would jump from 2.1 million to 2.16. not a huge increase at all, $60,000, that's in the neighborhood of 2.5%.
And
So overall,
Question about the debit.
overall, we're raising, budget by about municipal budget by about 2.5%. So we have to deal with the library. And we're done.
Well, actually, question, should we also be looking at projected revenue?
No, not in this section. I mean, it's certainly something I think we should look at, but not in, this is an exercise confined strictly to determining our spending plan.
So would it be worth entertaining, some quick math on reducing the hold on the general fund from 12.5% to 12% to 11.5% to see what flexibility we have there? I would go to 10.
We can always revisit that.
But that would give us an idea of the amount of money we have to flex with, potentially.
Why don't we wait till we get to go to bed?
Yeah,
We already know the Board of Ed.
But assuming the Board of Ed does what we want, before we made any of the cuts we discussed tonight, depending on whether the general fund comes in at 900 or closer to 800, I don't think we know that for sure yet, but we were looking at mill rate increases of 1.5 to 1.8. We paid $25,000 off. That's really just a tenth of the mill. So at the end of all this work, we're at increases in the mill rate of 1.4 to 1.7. Subject to digging deeper into the general fund, we should change our mind on doing that. But that's where we, and the last question I think is what we do with the library.
On to Tom's question about.
Please.
So all of our programming, the library is open and free to everyone except for our ticket program. Everything is.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that. I'm disputing things like when you have an event where the cost of something is higher than let's say the lower income level can afford. It's not really a program for them at that point. That's all I'm saying.
Fundraisers.
Yeah, I mean, like if not everyone's town can go and buy a picture for $150. It's not everything is geared towards everyone's town. I'm not slighting the library. I'm just saying
Right.
that when you say everything is for everybody, it's not necessarily true. True.
So because we are so underfunded by our town, we have to have 33 fundraisers a year.
I'm not disputing how you approach your fundraising. I'm suggesting that there are people in this town that can't afford certain things. That's all. All I'm saying.
And then you increase their taxes on top of that, you're.
You're criticizing the library for fundraising?
That's not what I said.
You didn't criticize them. Yeah.
No, I'm saying that you can't say that everything in the library is for all people.
I don't understand why you can't say that. I mean,
I'm saying that not everyone, Dave,
I went to.
can go to the library, buy a picture for $150.
Buy anything.
Fundraising, that's not the library. If the town properly funded the library, we wouldn't have to have fundraisers.
See,
It's historically, that library has had fundraisers ever since I can remember.
yeah,
Well, and all libraries
The
too.
library for not being available for all people.
you didn't criticize, I'm gonna defend you, and I'm not always gonna defend you, that's not what you said.
First, actually.
Yeah, it might be at first, but I don't think that's what he's implying. I don't think that's what he's implying. And and again, I have a problem with saying that the town underfunds. The town does the best it can. And I think that we are an incredible town and we do what we can do to help everybody here. So to come at us like we've historically underfunded the library, I think that's unfair too. We have a big job ahead of us. We have a job that we answer to more than the people in this room. And to fight over this, number one, I don't like that at all, but I don't want to see any attacks, but we don't underfund the library. We give what we can. And a lot of people in this town give what they can. And I think I just don't like that statement being made about the Board of Finance and the town.
There are many metrics that you could look at to decide whether we underfund the library. I look at them and I say we're respectably in the middle of the pack. We could do more, or you'd like us to do more, but To say we're underfunded, I think is an exaggeration. And so for us right now, you know, you came to the town asking to repeat, I know I'm repeating, for a 40% increase, and the selectmen gave you a 30% increase. And even after this cutting we've just gone through, the overall increase in the town budget is like 2.5%. So you're among the lines that are getting treated disproportionately way better than the rest of the town, which is why it's a difficult question for us. It's strictly whether it's, to repeat what I said earlier, whether it's fair. And if you think, as I think a lot of people in this room think, that the library is extremely important, you'd be inclined to favor it more than you would certain other lines in town. The question is, should we do it this much this year? And hanging in the balance between a $15,000 increase and a $10,000 increase, $5,000, that's like a less than a tenth of a mil. No taxpayer is going to look at their bill and say, "Oh my God, we gave the library 15,000 instead of 10." So I'm not going to pretend this is going to break somebody's back. It's just all part of what's going to be a significant tax increase for everybody. So I think we just need to decide where we're coming on this. I think we just should go around the table. How much we want to increase the budget? We're from $0 to $15,000. Let's see what the consensus is.
We can do that. Tom, you want to?
I knew you were gonna go there. Again, even though moments ago I was made out to be an evil person, I'm not. I love the library. But I have to look at the entire town when I look at things. I'm gonna pass this on by just saying I would fund an increase, but not 15,000.
Can you come up and give, if it were your decision, what would the increase be?
It's democracy.
We're all gonna say what our view is, and then we'll see what the consensus is.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 to 10,000, I'd probably be comfortable with. 10,000.
Full 15.
It's to me, I would.
No. Oh, I can't.
You can give your opinion.
I had
You're not voting.
my family's involved deeply with the library and has been for generations. 2 children went through there and prospered. It is tough. I mean, and then also being, a blue collar craftsman in town, it is hard at times to pay your property taxes. No matter how you budget, especially in January.
Yes, yes, I know. I got that one.
So it's a sticky wicket, and are there more creative ways to fundraise or ask for donations or ask for more volunteers? But I would say about 12.5. Or 50. It's a hard so
We're hovering around somewhere between 10 and 12.5, I think, and somebody voted for 15. So we're closing the gap here.
Carol's turn.
10,000.
And we had an alternate speak, so we have John.
We didn't let you speak.
Right, John and Ginger.
Oh, they didn't speak.
What keeps my taxes lower?
I knew you were gonna say that.
Okay, so he said that.
$1,000 a week now.
Okay, so
I
Ginger.
make that every week. I don't. I got a power bill that's going up 20% shortly.
Exactly.
I think I have to look at. I'd like to maintain the 15, and I think 12.5 is more realistic. The only reason I say that is I also think of those in town that are on fixed incomes. And I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves that there are those in town that are fixed incomes, and then you go and you hit them with a property tax increase, and there's no other money coming in. So I'm not against it, but I think we have to remind ourselves of it out there.
So do you have a number?
And I would still vote for the full 15, I think. The 15 or the incremental $2,500 is far more valuable to the library than it is to the overall scheme of things in terms of the effect on the mill rate.
Right. I didn't hear Ginger's number though.
I was saying the 12,500.
I
Okay.
would suggest,
So we're still deadlocked.
I would suggest that you wipe out the 12.5 number and look at either 10 or 15.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that 12.5 just muddies the water.
It's a compromise.
It is, but it doesn't make a difference, I don't think. If you're gonna give the library 12.5, you might as well give them 15. Like, it's not that much different, right? 10 is different than 15, so.
But they can make that many.
I understand that, but I mean,
No, I agree. I'd rather give you 12.5 than 10. They'll use the money.
Right. I'm comfortable with 12.5.
Okay, let's try it 12.5 then.
What's that in?
Well, we have to have a consensus, go around the table again. Oh,
I can live with 12.5.
Okay.
I can live with 12.5.
I think it's 12.5.
I can live with 12.5.
So we've got a consensus, majority consensus at 12.5. So the library gets almost, they get 5/6 of what the selection agreed to give back.
Yeah, because I don't even know.
It's a very small haircut, but it's symbolic.
And I'm really listening.
So what is that?
What you said before, and also as far as this kind of everyone's bearing this.
Yeah.
And also what Ginger just said, which is there really are people with fixed incomes in our town, and we want them here. Yeah, so we don't.
So
Pushing
if
out the very
we,
people we
if
want to
we,
go, so.
That's my point.
If we reduce the library's increase by 2.5, what's our number? For the exam?
28,099.
She's got her computer. Yes.
This is like paper faster than she did.
$28,000 out of the 80 we came for, so, and it was not easy getting that 28. Before we close, I just want to say one thing, this is not the way to run a budget, it's not the way to finance a town, you wait and do everything in about a month's time. So I'm gonna propose when the next fiscal year starts, that we look at the town budget department by department, have people come in and defend what the spending is across the board, so that we have a sense next year that we don't have to ask everybody in town questions to get answers. We'll get the answers as we meet during the year, and we'll be poised to do a better job. I think we did a good job with the information we had. We'll be poised to do a better job next year.
Was that actually submitted to the Board of Selectmen? No, the health department submit to you? What their budget submitted to us, and we asked.
You do that.
But we kind of wait till the last minute, and I think you just have to come July 2nd, we start.
No, my
looking at
only,
full
my only
process.
statement here is that if those people are doing that work already by submitting in writing what their increases are, and they have them, we should be able to read those as well.
We should be able to read them, and we should be able to talk to the people who run the departments and ask questions and get a better sense of what's really necessary and what's just happening. Because we're gonna run out of the general fund being able to contribute to our budget. Maybe we'll get some money from the firehouse, but in short order, the alternative relief valves are all gonna close up, and we're gonna have to pay for our spending with current taxes, and that's gonna be the shock when people see how much the mill rates are gonna have to go up. So something has to give in the next couple of years. It's not gonna give tonight, but it has to give in the future.
It's what you said in the very beginning of this whole process, is that it's a different game. They have to be thinking and approaching it differently, for in the long run.
We have a motion for our recommendation.
Yeah, I move that we reduce the selectmen's amended budget by a total of, what is it, Denise?
28,099.
Distribute among the lines as, and then Denise would, I guess we have to recite the different.
We have to recite the different line items now.
I will, as noted, just say as.
Okay,
As noted. Okay.
Sorry.
That's the motion.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Do we have to schedule a hearing date?
We have not yet,
Do you have to meet to move both the education and municipal budget to public hearing? And because you can't, it's not on
When
the
do we
agenda,
set
we can't
when
do
do we
that.
set
No,
the
you gotta
bill?
call special meeting.
When do we set?
Because you don't
the-
have the Board of Education.
After the hearing?
We assume it's gonna come
After
down
the-
to it. We don't have.
After
At the
vote.
town meeting or after the town, okay,
After the town vote.
but we have to be able to give them that information.
So we need to
Town
schedule a
meeting,
special meeting.
What the mill
We
rate
need
would be going on.
We need to schedule,
Usually-
I'd like to, we should schedule a special meeting, and on the agenda, it would be, of course, we need to have a review of the Board of Education's revised budget. And other agenda items would be to schedule the town hearing and the town meeting.
yes.
Do we know when Pat's gonna get us
Well, they're meeting tomorrow? Yeah, we're meeting tomorrow.
That she will send that to you very soon.
What do you mean we're meeting tomorrow?
No.
So we'll have a better handle on the revenue side of this.
in the future?
No. Forward, we have to know.
After town.
You also have to go through revenue, you have to figure out mill rate.
Until-
They have better numbers.
Already.
Yeah, we should.
Okay, David, you.
Precise.
Okay, so we have to still schedule a special meeting
Right.
after Board of Education's done.
Monday is probably too soon. If we're hopefully gonna get the Board of Ed tomorrow.
Monday. Can't do
So, I would think that the middle of
Can't be
next week,
Tuesday. But are we still in April, right? So May 1st?
which is what day?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Does that work?
Looking.
Probably doesn't for me, but you can see that I'll, that's.
I can, I'm,
Team
It's
meeting.
not a great date for me either.
you can do anything,
Is
so work around
Tuesday?
Amy
I
if
can
you
do
have to.
anything.
Tuesday?
Wednesday I can do.
Tuesday, I can't do Tuesday the 30th. I cannot do Tuesday the 30th.
Thursday,
Thursday the second,
you can't do Monday the 30th, as you said, that's too soon?
No,
I mean,
Monday's the
20
Monday the 29th I can do. I'm sorry. Monday the,
Yeah.
yeah, that's soon.
We don't know.
We won't have probably information from you guys yet.
Yeah, it'll be tomorrow night, so.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's Friday morning.
Do it Monday?
well,
Okay, doing it close,
we can try Monday.
Monday.
I'm fine with Monday. I don't have, I was
I can
looking
do
at,
Monday
I
as
was
well.
looking at the wrong.
Is that gonna give enough time to notice the meeting?
I have to put the agenda,
Meeting is 40.
send it to Joe. Is Johanna here? Yes, she is. If I get it to you tonight, can you post it first thing in the morning? Yeah,
All right,
Monday?
and that's to set the public hearing?
Set the
And
hearing.
Review
and,
the Board of
and review
Education
the Board of
and to
Education.
set the town meeting. Those three.
So it's public
I
hearing
think at
and
that,
meeting.
at that meeting, you have to make a motion to move the specific dollar amount from municipal plan and education plan.
Right,
For the hearing, or at that next meeting.
Time frame
for that meeting?
What do you wanna do?
What, dear?
The first, we have, the solar. Oh, yeah.
But it's on Wednesday.
That's on a Wednesday, so we're doing the,
Or they had, not on the first?
no, we're doing the
29th.
29th. Hey, become a grandfather and look what happens.
April 29th, what time?
Pay attention, Chris.
What time, guys? 6?
6 is good.
6 is good for me, yeah. So it's the 29th, right?
Yes.
that's a Tuesday.
No, it's a Monday.
Yeah.
Monday the.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, question,
yeah.
she has to post 8 hours, is that?
So-
That's just on the 24th.
Can
And that would be,
No, you have
No,
public
we
comment.
have
I have
public
just one
comment.
thing.
Actually, the family.
And they all left, but the rec commission got $2,000 cut out of their $3,000 winter program. It's an amazing program.
That's what's coming.
My 3 kids loved it. Your kids loved it. Hey, the stuff the rec commission has done is 100 times more than it used to be. So for the only program to really get cut, it's the winter program from 3,000 to 1,000. I mean, that's investing in the kids.
The program's not getting cut. The ski program's not getting cut, just the busing is.
the busing is, that's what he
I
said.
know, but
Yeah, but tell me how many parents can get out of work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and drive their kids to Mohawk. It's a big problem, as you said. So
With equipment.
it would be great if that could be reconsidered, is all I'm saying. I don't have anything in this game, it's just I see what the rec commission is doing, more than I've ever seen since I've been here. That program from 3,000 to 1 is kind of.
We could reconsider that.
And-
Yeah, we
any
can
other-
reconsider it on Monday. We can reconsider that on
But
Monday.
any other public comment?
We won't spend it if there's any other.
Well, I just wanted to say that, I think, especially because you've got some new board members here, this was probably a really good exercise for you guys to go through. And I like the idea of you hearing from the different, people through the year so that you're actually educated ahead of time. I would be happy to come, as the president of the fire company and review the budget, how we spend our funds with you ahead of time. If you could just tell me what month you want me to show up, so I get it on my calendar. That would be really important to me because my calendar is super full. But I would definitely be here. I'd be happy to do that so that you don't have to go through a full exercise or
Thank you.
again next
Thank you for
year.
that.
And I personally would be in favor of giving the library their money. Because I do think all their programming is free and it is, the stuff they're doing is really remarkable. And, I don't go physically into the library, but I use Libby every single day. So, I just think it's a really valuable service and they are offering more than I know other towns offer to their community. So,
There'll still be the public hearing where we can have public input.
right, which I think
Yes.
is important. Great,
So could we pick a time?
I'm busy that day.
Just be a-
Set this
6 o'clock.
Good.
Any other?
Yes.
public comment though? Is there any other?
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
I'll make a motion. Make a motion. During the.
Get out of
A motion to adjourn. Who did it?
Oh, I did, she did, we all did it. We all did it. It was unanimous.
Doesn't matter.
Unanimous.
Attack the name, doesn't matter.
And Mr. Chairman, thank you all.
Yes, thank you.
Mike.